Chapter 599. Expressionlessly, Gu Fei looked at Bai Jingluan, who couldn't suppress his excitement. He took the thick stack of registration forms from Bai Jingluan's hands and glanced at them. Finally, he couldn't help but burst out, 2,000, right? Tailor-made, right? Do you think I'm a robot? Bai Jingluan was startled. Isn't it the same as a robot in the game? Gu Fei raised his leg and kicked sideways. Bai Jingluan was also the real deal. He pushed his arms forward, and when the two collided, it was Bai Jingluan, who was stronger, who had the upper hand. He grabbed Gu Fei's ankle and quickly twisted it, throwing Gu Fei into the air. Unexpectedly, Gu Fei swung his other leg and swept it towards Bai Jingluan's head. Bai Jingluan had no choice but to let go and retreat in order to avoid the kick. Gu Fei spun in the air and stood back in place. Don't fight yet. Seeing that this might be the only chance for him to intervene and stop the two from fighting, Brother Yu rushed in between them without a care for his own safety. He extended his arms and blocked one of them with each hand, but he was already ready to defend himself at any time. Seeing that the two were not going to fight, Brother Yu let out a long breath and hurriedly said to Gu Fei, "The situation isn't as bad as you think." Gu Fei looked at Brother Yu and gestured for him to continue. Although there are 2,000 registration forms, there are a total of 7 classes in the game, and the way to add points for each class is generally fixed. Moreover, there are limited types of monsters, so 2,000 registration forms doesn't mean that you need to do 2,000 quests. Most of them must be in the same situation, said Brother Yu. Gu Fei thought about it and agreed. Then he looked down at the registration forms in his hands. He looked through a few of them. The classes and weapons were all different, but at the very least, they had one thing in common. The NPCs that these players had chosen were all bonfire patrols. Brother Yu had also moved closer to Gu Fei. He looked at the registration forms in Gu Fei's hands and said, "Look, these people's requirements are all the same. Although the weapons are different, you're not asking for the type of weapon, but the length of the weapon, right? This way, we can set a unified standard, and there won't be too many categories in the end. As for the attributes, for example, the set just now requires agility to be at least level 8. Then, all agility, half agility, and so on, as long as they have a certain amount of agility, they will basically meet the requirements. According to this trend, the so-called tailor-made set is actually not as complicated as you think. That's true, but level 40 players don't have low requirements for monsters. There are many professions that don't add any agility. How can we tailor monsters for them? Damn, a fallen wizard, a level 60 monster. Who's going too far? It's hard for me to kill this monster. Gu Fei said. Brother Yu almost fell down. He trembled and said, "You can kill a level 60 monster alone?" "Yes, didn't I mention it to you?" Gu Fei said. Brother Yu thought that if he had mentioned it, he would have gone to observe it. I've probably killed quite a few. Gu Fei had only started killing level 60 monsters after reaching level 40, so he really hadn't killed them many times. What is this monster? Gu Fei saw a strange name that he didn't recognize and asked Brother Yu. Brother Yu wiped his sweat. This is a level 70, let him tailor-make it. Gu Fei fiercely stuffed the level 70 monster registration form into 100 Generations Jinglin's arms and said hatefully. Level 60 was Gu Fei's limit. Gu Fei had also tried killing level 70 monsters. He could protect himself if he could kill them, but if he sweated every time he killed one, it would be too much of a waste. The Night Streamer sword was reduced to an ordinary purple quality weapon on a level 70 monster. Gu Fei's frightening magic damage didn't exist on a level 70 plane. He could only kill werewolves a little easier, and that was with the holy baptism of the fire baptism, which restrained the werewolf's abnormal self-recovery ability. Level 70 is too difficult. 100 Generations Jinglin had obviously challenged it before. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so sure. He scratched his head and said, "If the two of us work together, we might have a chance." Gu Fei ignored him, but Brother Yu was quick-witted. His eyes lit up and he said, "This person who suggested high-level monsters is just making things difficult for you. Even if you say you can't kill them, the players will understand. Moreover, if you two work together, it'll be a victory. Think about it, the higher the level of the monster, the more EXP you'll get. So, you don't need to be too efficient. It'll be fine as long as you can show a higher efficiency than normal leveling. Want to learn level 70? Ask them to learn. Anyway, I'll take the money. Whether they can learn it or not is up to them. But this guy said it's guaranteed. Gu Fei pointed at 100 Generations Jinglin and said, "You shouldn't say that. Brother, you chose to stand on Gu Fei's side this time." 100 Generations Jinglin thought it made sense. Level and stats weren't enough to kill level 70 mobs, so they had to use a lot of martial arts techniques. The more content there was in this area, the more difficult it was for normal people to learn, especially when it required the kind of reaction speed that had been cultivated for many years. It wasn't something that could be taught for sure. When he thought of the many professional details, 100 Generations Jinglin gradually felt that he had indeed not thought it through. He had been blinded by money. What should we do? 100 Generations Jinglin held the registration form that Gu Fei had thrown at him and was reluctant to part with it. That's not a big problem. Brother Yu was the one who had the most ideas. If ordinary people can't learn how to kill high-level monsters like level 60 and 70, just say that there's no such business at the moment. No one will have any objections. But for those players who don't have agility, you have to think about how to complete their business. You should put the customer's needs first. You have to adapt your skills to the customers, not the other way around. Brother, what you said makes sense. 100 Generations Jinglin shook hands with Brother Yu. Is it possible to play without agility? Brother Yu asked Gu Fei. Of course it's possible, 100 Generations Jinglin answered for him. Gu Fei also sighed helplessly. I can, but if I don't have the speed of my movements, I'll need my own reaction speed to improve my rhythm. It's even harder to learn, and I might not be able to achieve a satisfactory efficiency. But it should at least be more efficient than the ordinary players, right? Brother Yu said. Of course. Gu Fei nodded. That's enough. Brother Yu nodded confidently. So, this business is still promising? 100 Generations Jinglin was excited again. After Gu Fei mentioned a bunch of problems, he felt that the business was full of obstacles before it even opened. That's all I can think of for now. Brother Yu was never one to be full of promises. But no matter what, this business is super promising. Even if it can't be targeted at all players, it's enough to make a profit as long as it's targeted at those with agility. 99 gold coins. If I really want to learn this kind of monster-killing efficiency, it's simply too cheap. Is that so? 100 Generations Jinglin regretted it. Actually, this is a good chance for us to put it into practice. Let's try it out with these players and see how it works. If it's possible, we'll expand the enrollment and build a more mature and reasonable system. Brother Yu shook his head. What system? Gu Fei and 100 Generations Jinglin asked at the same time. This job isn't that simple. For example, right now, you have more than 1,000 application forms that need to be sorted out. There are still many in your mailbox waiting to be taken out and sorted out. After that, you have to rush to various leveling areas and spend time teaching the players. There were indeed many things to do. Gu Fei glared at 100 Generations Jinglin, but he also realized that this was indeed a good way to make money. It was much better than 100 Generations Jinglin being a mercenary. Brother Yu's mind was filled with the details of this matter, and the more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Seeing him like this, Gu Fei knew that he was probably very interested in this business. It just so happened that the two jobs of development and teaching were enough to keep Gu Fei and 100 Generations Jinglin busy. Moreover, it could only be the two of them, so Brother Yu could be considered a professional for chores like sorting out information. Let's go back to the city and find a place to sit down and talk. Gu Fei said. It had been a tiring day. The three of them returned to the main city and went straight to a tavern. However, they had already said almost everything they wanted to say on the way. When they sat down in the tavern, Brother Yu had already talked about the glorious future. Professions, point addition methods, equipment, and small monsters. These numbers are actually fixed. When our business develops to a certain stage, development work may not be necessary anymore, and resources can be recycled. That would be great. Gu Fei smiled disapprovingly. You're too optimistic. After we learn these things, you teach me and I teach you. For example, you already know how to fight the bonfire patrols. If we go out and set up a class that costs 50 gold coins per person, will anyone still come to us to learn? Brother Yu was stunned. He had forgotten about this. It turned out that this business wasn't a monopoly, but a business where the apprentices could starve the masters to death. Can it be that only you guys know how to teach and no one else can teach you? Brother Yu asked. Gu Fei and 100 Generations Jinglin told him with their gazes that he was daydreaming. Is that so? Then we can't make small profits like now. We have to make as much money as possible when we have an advantage. 99 gold coins is too cheap. Brother Yu said. Then how much is suitable? 100 Generations Jinglin asked. 999 gold coins. Brother Yu was actually a ruthless person. But 99 gold coins has already been called out. 100 Generations Jinglin said. There's no way to change the price now, but we can tell them that because they are our first customers, there's a big discount. All future customers will be 999 gold coins. How ruthless! Gu Fei gasped. Meanwhile, the Encyclopedia of Wisdom was frantically trying to figure out how to multiply 999 times 2000. On the way, both parties had come to an agreement. Brother Yu was also in charge of the organization of information and the promotion and logistics of the business in the future. At this time, the registration forms had been handed to him. On the way back, he took out many other registration letters from the mailbox. Brother Yu was holding a stack of letters and flipping through them. Suddenly, he frowned and said, 999 gold coins isn't too good. Although this thing is definitely worth 999 gold coins, from a marketing point of view, there's too much room for price flexibility. It will promote the formation of second-hand depreciation market, which is very disadvantageous to us. No, this price is not good. I was too short-sighted just now. 99 gold coins is more suitable. Brother Yu overruled his own suggestion, saying that the three of them would discuss it. It had always been like this since the beginning of the journey. Brother Yu discussed with himself, and Gu Fei and 100 Generations Jinglin habitually didn't say anything, waiting for Brother Yu to come up with a conclusion. 99 gold coins, it's still 99 gold coins. Brother Yu finally made the decision. This price is not considered high consumption at the moment. There's no profit if there's too much depreciation, and there's limited attraction if there's too little depreciation. We have to take advantage of the fact that the business is still firmly in our hands to expand our influence and form a certain brand effect as soon as possible. It's the same no matter who teaches it. What brand is there? Gu Fei laughed. Of course there is a brand. Since it's the same no matter who teaches it, then we'll compete in fame, influence, and popularity. Brother Yu said. Alright, you guys discuss it. I'm tired today, so I want to go offline and rest. If it's okay, I'll organize the information tonight. Starting tomorrow, I'll start the development. You guys do whatever you want. Gu Fei said as he got up and left without waiting for the two's agreement. Brother Yu was stunned for a long time. He muttered to 100 Generations Jinglin, it's a profitable business. Why doesn't Qianli seem interested in it at all? His family is very rich. He's interested in everything but money, 100 Generations Jinglin said. Is that so? Brother Yu didn't know Gu Fei's family background. He was wondering why the teacher didn't care about such a large income. If this business was successful, it wouldn't be as simple as becoming a tycoon in the game. It would be a huge career that could support him in real life. Ignore him and continue. 100 Generations Jinglin listened to Brother Yu's teachings along the way. The more he listened, the more he admired him. He even changed the way he addressed Brother Yu. Let's settle the price first. If it's set too high, it'll be the same as getting a lot of money and leaving. We can't do something so short-sighted, right? Of course. 100 Generations Jinglin already realized that if this business was successful, he could even quit his job as a bodyguard at the school. The players in this parallel world had a much wider source of students than their school. In Brother Yu's words, if they wanted to make the business more influential, the first thing new players should do after entering the game was to contact 100 Generations Jinglin and learn the most suitable and fastest monster-killing technique. These words made 100 Generations Jinglin excited. Brother Yu was a very meticulous person. After looking into the future, he knew that the 2,000 registration forms in front of him were the first shot that could successfully start this business. Therefore, he immediately started the substantial work. The next day, Gu Fei went online early in the morning. He didn't see Brother Yu, but the students were already waiting. As usual, Gu Fei took the students to the leveling spot. The group teaching had ended for the day. If the students wanted to continue learning, they had to level up. Although they had learned Gu Fei's great monster-killing technique, it wasn't so fast that they could reach the next stage in 2 or 3 days. Gu Fei's main task now was to teach the students who had strange questions one-on-one. After the 6 questions today, there were no new questions. There were only a few students, and most of them had already asked questions. There was no reason for them to ask about other monsters so quickly. The other small group of students obediently fought the small monsters that Gu Fei had arranged, which saved Gu Fei a lot of trouble. As a result, some of the students gathered here to fight the monsters, while others grasped the specific strategy that Gu Fei had taught them and went to find the monsters that they needed. Gu Fei walked around a few rounds and found that the students were now very familiar with the strategy. Originally, it was just using a rigid method to kill a rigid robot. How hard could it be? It was true that their experience increased rapidly, but when this speed became a habit, they would have to endure repetition and boredom. The more they repeated, the more boring it would be. Gu Fei was waiting to see how much perseverance these students would have. After mingling with the students for more than an hour, Brother Yu made a dazzling appearance. As soon as he went online, he sent a message to Gu Fei. "Yo, you're quite early." Usually, Brother Yu wouldn't be online at this time. They would only be online after noon. "There are a lot of things to do." Brother Yu said, "Is that so? How is it?" "Here's my plan now. We can't teach one after another. Won't you two be busy to death? What I mean is a kind of demand. We can only start teaching when we accumulate a certain number. For example, 500 or 1,000 people. Otherwise, wouldn't it be crazy to teach you one by one?" From yesterday till now, this sentence of yours is my favorite. So what's your initial number? 500 or 1,000? Gu Fei asked. This has to be based on the actual situation. The main problem is the teaching venue. For example, the wilderness camp. Because of the existence of 9,527 stones, the teaching conditions are extremely good. Teaching 2,000 people at a time is not a problem. But if we want to change to another place, we need to adjust the number according to the local conditions. Brother Yu said. Well, that's right. Gu Fei said. The tragedy is Shiyu City and Forest Shade City. I'm afraid these two main cities can't carry out large-scale teaching. We have to think of other ways. Brother Yu said. Cough, Brother Yu, you're really far-sighted. You're already ready to promote the brand to the world? Isn't it good to do the ones at hand first? Gu Fei asked. The ones at hand? We've already completed part of it. Brother Yu said. Most of the registration forms yesterday were collected from the wilderness camp. In the end, I calculated that 1,841 players chose the Bonfire Patrol as their monster, and the situation was more optimistic than we expected. In the end, these 1,841 players were divided into 2 categories. The first category was those who wielded long weapons and had low agility or no agility. The second category was those who wielded short weapons and had high agility. You've already taught them yesterday, so 100 Era Strategist has developed these 2 categories and completed the teaching last night. We've already earned our first bucket of gold. Is that so? Gu Fei wiped his sweat. He didn't expect these 2 guys to be so capable. Well, but 100 Generations Statecraft said that he's not very good at short weapons. You may have a better method, so he said he wanted to discuss it with you again. But I think this is actually a good thing. If there's a better technique, it can just show that our development power is very strong. Once there's a competitor in the current playstyle teaching, we can introduce a new playstyle to reoccupy the market. Brother, you said. You really have ideas. Gu Fei wiped his sweat again. Not to mention actual PK, Brother you was actually a super awesome character. Thank you. There's also bad news. Brother, you said. What? Gu Fei asked. That night, not long after our teaching ended, there were already people in the wilderness camp starting to depreciate at the price of 50 gold coins. And it wasn't just one person. The players' brains turn really fast. Brother, you said. Butterfly knot. I suddenly found that writing a money-making story is also very exciting. Chapter 600. It was obvious that Brother Yu wasn't the only one who discovered the potential of this business, because the reasoning behind it was very simple. As long as the playing method could increase efficiency, then it would become a must-buy item for everyone. Those who didn't buy it had already lost. Normal players didn't have the ability to develop, so they could only eat the leftovers that Gu Fei and the others had cooked. Moreover, they knew that it was better to be early than late. They hadn't even learned how to play, but they had already started selling it. That's fast. How's their teaching? Gu Fei asked. That's really not good. They haven't even gotten used to it yet, so they can't show how efficient they are. They've basically become a laughing stock. However, they can only blame themselves for being too impatient. As long as they spend some time to get used to it, the situation will change. Brother, you said. Then what do you think we should do now? We can only seize the time to seize market share. Brother, you also had a headache. The piracy industry was too developed. It was everywhere and impossible to guard against. If we want to expand our influence in a short period of time, won't we be a bit short on manpower? Gu Fei said. Yes, so I think if you and Baisher don't mind, we can ask Prince Sword Demon and the others to do it together. The more people, the easier it is. Moreover, their names are golden signboards. Brother, you said. I don't have any objections. Baisher, have you guys discussed it? Gu Fei said. Yes, he doesn't have any objections either. Then it's a unanimous decision. Let's wait for Sword Demon and the others to come online and discuss what to do next. Brother, you said. But after noon, the members of Child Elite Group came online one after another. They were all called to the tavern by Brother Yu. Han Family Young Master's face was filled with anger. Usually, when he had something to do, he didn't see this group of people come so quickly. However, now that Brother Yu said there was money to be made, they all appeared as if they were flying. Cough, almost everyone is here. Brother Yu cleared his throat. Brother Yu, just get to the point. If you talk too much nonsense, we'll chop you up. Unscathed in battle said on behalf of everyone. Brother Yu was a little gloomy for a moment, then he told them about the matter. They had to rely on Gu Fei again. The few experts were depressed. Why did this person always have to be so flashy? There's such a thing? Why didn't you mention it to us? Although everyone knew that Gu Fei wasn't the kind of person who hid his personal goods, they couldn't help but ask. You guys are too strong. It's like you can instantly kill a small monster. Why would you need to learn any techniques? Gu Fei said. These words made the few experts feel comfortable from head to toe, but after a while, they reacted, who killed him in an instant? Who could instantly kill a monster that was a higher level than them? Are you talking about yourself? I'm just making an analogy. What I mean is that you guys are already very, very strong, so learning my techniques won't be of much help to you guys. Unless you think that you're at the same level as Brother Yu. Gu Fei said. You're insulting me. Unscathed in battle slammed the table. Brother Yu coughed loudly. He was so depressed that he wanted to strangle Unscathed in battle. Let's talk business, let's talk business. Sword Demon was concerned about business. Right now, he also wanted to earn a lot of money. He still owed a lot of debts. The situation is like this. I don't need to say how big the market is, so there's definitely no end to the money. Everyone will work together and split the profits. Isn't that great? Brother, you said. There's no need to talk about this. Han Family Young Master said, what's the current situation? Currently. Brother, you talked about the current piracy crisis, then said, so I feel that the most important thing right now is to use our mercenary group's ID's golden signboards to quickly raise our fame. Let people know who the ultimate owner of this technique is. The golden signboards made these guys secretly happy. Brother Yu was also proud of his words, but he suddenly realized that Han family young master's face was full of disdain and disdain. Not good. Brother Yu shouted in his heart. He already wanted to find a hole to slip away. Idiot, the most important thing right now is to control the situation. If we blindly advertise, isn't that the same as helping the pirates to advertise? Han family young master said. You say it, you say it? Brother, you didn't argue at all. What do you mean we'll give our customers what they need? That's pure bullshit. Right now we're in a monopoly position. Whatever we give them, they have to take it. They don't have the right to choose. Han family young master said. Everyone stared at the Han family's young master. They had never seen someone who was so arrogant when selling things. You just said that the Bonfire Patrol's various techniques have already been developed. That's good. The next step is to advertise the Bonfire Patrol. Before this monster's market is saturated, we definitely won't develop another type of monster. Han family young master said. Will there ever be a saturation point? Only focusing on one type of monster would mean that the Bonfire Patrol's experience would be 2 to 3 times more than the other monsters of the same level. If that's the case, even players who don't normally kill this type of monster would run over, right? Even players who don't have this type of monster in the main city would definitely rush over to White Stone City after hearing this news. Level 40 players are the main group. The wilderness camp is only so big, and there are only so many monsters. This. Brother, you didn't dare to imagine what kind of consequences this would cause. Moreover, there are already pirated versions of the Bonfire Patrol. If we hold on to this piece of cake tightly, how many bites can we eat? Han family young master laughed coldly. Gu Fei had already taken over the conversation. Let them hold on to it and snatch it. At that time, we can go and exchange it for another piece of cake. Is that what you're trying to say? Brother Yu's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard this. He said excitedly, then we'll go and develop a new level monster? Han family young master nodded his head. That's right. But next time, we can't just randomly accept the registration form and teach it so rashly. We have to advertise in advance. For example, if the next monster we're going to kill is the Greenwood Bandit, then we'll post a post on the forum and post an advertisement in the game. We'll let all players know that Child Elite Group is going to develop an efficient way to fight the Greenwood Bandit. Those who are interested in learning, sign up and pay. When we have enough people, we'll officially start teaching. Pay in advance. Brother Yu was confused. Of course. Although there will be some who aren't willing to pay, these people don't need to care about him. With a low price of 99 gold coins and the actual leveling efficiency they saw in the Bonfire Patrol, there would definitely be no shortage of people who were willing to pay in advance. Let's take the few of you here for example. If there was a set of methods that could increase your leveling speed by 2 to 3 times, and it only cost you 99 gold coins, would you be willing to take the risk? Han family young master said. The few of them looked at each other. Han family young master took a sip of wine and continued, moreover, if you take out your lousy IDs, you might really have some credibility. You just said enough people. What do you mean by enough people? What do you mean enough? Brother, you asked. The area of the leveling area, the number of monsters, and the spawn rate are all the same. Therefore, the number of players in each leveling area at the same time can also be estimated. Of course, other than a few lunatics, no one would occupy a piece of land without rest. Considering this situation, I think that the number of students for each type of monster should be at least 4 times the number of players at the saturation point. Han family young master said. If we do this, it'll be very difficult for those who are involved in piracy. Gu Fei realized that with young Master Han's way of doing things, his side had an absolute guarantee of income. Although the pervasive piracy still had a chance to get a share of the profits, their living space had been reduced to a very small one. That's right, all the resources are in our hands. How can we not bully them to death? They'll have wasted their lives. Han family young master said. As the saying went, there would always be a taller mountain. It was definitely a coincidence that 100 Lives strategist came up with such an idea. However, Brother Yu quickly used his understanding of the game and the players to push the plan to the point that it was feasible. On the other hand, young Master Han, with his usual despicable and vicious character, kicked all the people who could possibly snatch the food to the corner to scoop up the dregs. At this moment, Brother Yu was pounding his head in pain. Looking back at it now, he and Bai Jingluan had excitedly raked in their first bucket of gold last night. If he had listened to Han family young master's analysis earlier, he could have used the registration form to make up for the number of people. Now, the most convenient piece of cake to make a name for themselves had to be harassed by a large number of pirates. Although the current start is a little messy, after hearing Han family young master's words, Brother Yu buried his head even deeper. Then he heard Han family young master continue to say, "But this step must be taken, or else it will be detrimental to our credibility. Brother Yu, after a while, go offline and post on the forum. Strongly state that the child elite group is the original source of the efficient monster killing method. We won't be responsible for the consequences of the things taught by other trash. Also, inform the current teaching focus on the bonfire patrol. If you want to sign up, look for a specific person. I think it's you. Also, give us a preview of the operation that we discussed just now. By the way, you can open a poll. It'll be very convenient for us to count. Oh, and also, warn those pirates not to let us see them. Otherwise, we'll send Qianli to hunt them down to the ends of the earth." Hey! Gu Fei was dissatisfied. He did not have the time to do that. Intimidation, it's intimidation, Han family young master said to him. Anything else? Brother Yu asked. I was speaking colloquially just now. You choose your words, Han family young master said. I know. Brother Yu said. Then hurry up and go. Han family young master waved his hand. Brother Yu swiftly got up and walked out of the door. After a few steps, he stopped and looked back. Suddenly he felt wronged. Originally, this whole thing was basically planned by him. But in the blink of an eye, he had become an errand boy. How depressing was that? Before he could think it through, those guys saw that he suddenly stopped walking. One by one, they looked over suspiciously. Brother Yu wiped his eyes and left. You three. Han family young master looked at Sword Demon, Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle. Are you familiar with the level 40 leveling areas in Whitestone City? You three divide yourselves. Each of you walk a few. Carefully count the size of the leveling areas, the types of monsters, the number of players and so on. Shouldn't this kind of thing be done by Brother Yu? Yutian Shenming was confused. Then what do you think you can do now? Han family young master asked. Yutian Shenming was startled. Nothing. You don't want to split the money, do you? Han family young master asked. What are you two waiting for? Hurry up and go. Yutian Shenming jumped up and roared, fully expressing his enthusiasm. Brother Yu is going to advertise. The three of us are going to investigate. Qianli and Isher Jingluan don't need to say anything. May I ask what you're going to do? Unscathed in Battle carefully asked Han family young master. I'm going to the wilderness camp with Qianli to check out the situation. Han family young master said. What situation? Unscathed in Battle asked. How do you know if you haven't seen it? Han family young master said. Unscathed in Battle still wanted to say something, but he was dragged out by Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming. Are you a bitch? Before they even left, the two of them questioned Unscathed in Battle at the same time. Let's go too. Han family young master called out to Gu Fei. The two of them left and went to the wilderness camp. Gu Fei sucked in a breath of cold air. The players here were divided into two groups, those with agility and those without agility, those with short weapons and those with long weapons. Among them, the agile short weapons were one type of fighting style, while the non-agile long weapons were another. The techniques were both new and familiar, but the common characteristic was that they all had red eyes. Gu Fei reckoned that they hadn't slept since they learned it last night. After looking at the two fighting styles, Gu Fei felt that Unscathed strategist wasn't being modest when he said that he wasn't good at short weapons. The dagger style obviously couldn't compare to the one-handed sword style. There were a few details that were handled with hesitation. It seemed that Unscathed strategist really didn't know much about short weapons. When the two of them appeared and stood there for a while, they immediately attracted the attention of some people. In an instant, 4 or 5 people surrounded the two of them. "Brother, how is it? You've never seen it before, right? Ha, it's this year's new fighting style. You seem to be an expert, so you must have realized that this fighting style is extremely efficient, right? How about it? Do you want to learn it? Come over here, 40 gold coins is guaranteed," a player said. 40? Isn't it 50? Gu Fei was surprised. 50 is the price this morning. The player realized that he had misspoken. This person obviously didn't mind 50, so why did he lower the price for himself? Someone else immediately took advantage of the situation. Another person approached Gu Fei and said, "Brother, you're a mage, right? Then you have to learn how to fight with long weapons. That guy teaches daggers, so he's not suitable for you." "Who said that?" "I can teach you both long and short," the previous person roared, thumping his chest. "You can teach me both long and short?" The person sized him up and said, "How much dexterity do you have? Do you know that long weapons don't require dexterity? Do you think we can learn what you teach with the speed of a rogue? Don't try to fool us." "Heh, that's our advantage. You guys don't have dexterity, so you can't be fast even if you want to. We have dexterity, so we can be slow if we want to. What, are you envious?" "I'm envious." "Fuck, watch your mouth." The player was furious. "Watch your mouth." The player was persistent. Dust flew everywhere as the two sides started fighting. Gu Fei and the Han family young master watched for a while. It was hard to tell who would win in a short time, so they took a detour. In the end, the fisherman came out after the sandpiper and clam fought. "Hey, which one do you want to learn? We have professional teachers here." "Where are you teaching?" Gu Fei asked. The person thought that there was a chance and was very happy. He made an inviting gesture. "This way, please." Gu Fei saw where he was waving and asked again, "Isn't it at 9,527 stones? Over there?" The person was obviously stunned. Gu Fei had already seen that he was pointing in the opposite direction of 9,527 stones, so he asked again, "Who's teaching there?" The person's smile faded. "There's no one teaching there now." "No way? That's such a good place. Why aren't they using it?" Gu Fei was surprised. "Brother, don't you know? This business is actually done by Qianli Drunk. You know Qianli Drunk, right? That bastard who kills without blinking an eye. Sigh, we only talk about it behind his back. Who dares to do it in front of him?" As a matter of fact, he had occupied 9,527 stones yesterday to teach others. Who would dare to snatch his territory now? Would they be tired of living? Brother, if you want to learn from him, I advise you not to. The things are the same, but his fees are high, 99 gold coins. Secondly, it's dangerous, do you know? I'll teach you a few moves. If you can't learn, you'll be killed instantly. I heard that after Qianli Drunk taught, his PK value reached a new high. This area was surrounded by the main city guards who chased after him. Blood flowed like a river. "Look, such a devil. Do you think you can learn from him?" Gu Fei's expression changed unpredictably. It was very beautiful. He waited until the guy finished speaking before saying with a dark face, "There should be a limit to your nonsense, right?" The person was even more anxious. He patted his chest and said, "Who's talking nonsense? If I'm talking nonsense, let me run into Qianli Drunk and die a horrible death. Then I'll do as you wish." Gu Fei pulled out his sword and was about to slash. A dark purple longsword, black robe. This guy finally knew who was standing in front of him. He plopped down on the ground. Seeing that Gu Fei's sword hadn't fallen, he immediately turned around and crawled, disappearing into the bushes on the side of the road. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Han family young master nodded his head and said, "Looks like this golden signboard of yours is more useful than I thought." "That's too much." Gu Fei was depressed. He didn't want the players' expressions to change when they talked about him. "Let's go take a look at the place you mentioned," Han family young master said. The two of them walked over to 9,527 stones. "Who said there's no one? Isn't there someone here?" Gu Fei was overjoyed. There was clearly a large group of people gathered at 9,527 stones, and there was also a character standing on the stone who seemed to be talking. It seemed that the guy's description of himself as a demon was indeed an exaggeration. As they walked closer, Gu Fei gradually felt that something was wrong. The guy standing on 9,527 stones was wearing a black robe and a dark purple longsword. It was obviously his cosplay. Han family young master's eyes lit up. Hey, this guy is a bit stronger than those idiots. He even knows how to use your signboard. I like it. Gu Fei's face darkened. He blended into the crowd and squeezed to the front. He looked up and saw that the guy's costume was very similar, but his face was covered. When Gu Fei stared at him, the guy's gaze shifted. He made eye contact with Gu Fei, but he quickly looked away. Gu Fei immediately had a plan in mind. He tried his best to squeeze forward. After attracting the angry gazes of a bunch of people, he suddenly raised his hand and teleported to 9,527 stones. He tore off the guy's mask. Chapter 601. This person in front of her, Gu Fei had basically never given her a good attitude since the start of the game. When she saw Gu Fei tear through the air and take off her mask, she also wanted to react, but her skills were simply not enough. Gu Fei dodged a step, but he still lost his mask. She could only helplessly purse her lips, looking like she was at his mercy. You've got guts. How dare you pretend like this? Gu Fei fiercely threw the mask to the ground. Shi Xiaotian's figure, appearance, voice, gender, and occupation were completely different from Gu Fei. She actually dared to cosplay as him. Her guts weren't small at all. That's nothing. Anyways, no one knows what you look like. Actually, most people wouldn't be able to tell if Qianli is a man or a woman, right? Shi Xiaotian said. As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Fei heard the players below the boulder discussing. So Qianli is a beauty. Oh my god, this is big news. Who is this guy? How did he get up there? What does he want? Gu Fei was about to faint. After being misunderstood as a demon who killed without blinking, now even a woman appeared. With public and private hatred mixed together, Gu Fei looked at Shi Xiaotian with eyes full of fire. He grabbed Shi Xiaotian's collar and roared, "How many gold coins did you cheat this time?" You can't say I cheated this time. I've already grasped your playstyle. It's enough to teach them. Shi Xiaotian said. Really? Gu Fei laughed coldly. He let go of her and stood to the side. Then I'd like to see. As he spoke, his right hand was already in his pocket, holding the Night Streak sword. Gu Fei had already made up his mind. If this guy tried to fool him, he would immediately execute him on the spot for swindling. Shi Xiaotian faintly smiled and took a step forward. At this time, the players below the boulder were discussing the real Qianli. This guy is so arrogant. Yeah, he's too daring. How dare he grab Qianli's collar? Qianli doesn't seem to have much of a reaction when he's drunk. Looks like their relationship isn't normal. Big news, big news. Gu Fei's expression was getting uglier and uglier. Shi Xiaotian finally walked to the front of the rock, smiled and asked, "Can anyone throw a small monster up here? Let's start right now." Oh! Someone suddenly slapped his thigh. I know, that guy is the 100 Lives Scholar. 100 Lives Classic? Yeah, haven't you heard? This class was established by Drunk Qianli and 100 Lives Jingluan. Yesterday, I heard that it was 100 Lives Jingluan who personally handled the matter of throwing rocks at the monsters. Yes, I've heard about this. Therefore, a bunch of people looked at Gu Fei and nodded. 100 Lives Jingluan, so he's the 100 Lives Jingluan. Then, as they discussed, they looked at Gu Fei and muttered, "Why is he still standing there? Why isn't he coming down to throw the small monsters?" Those words were too hurtful. Gu Fei had the heart to throw the small monsters, but he was completely powerless. Gu Fei's lack of strength had always been something that bothered him. Unable to bear it anymore, he jumped to the front of the boulder and roared, "Who's the 100 Lives Jingluan? Don't any of you know appraisal? Can't you even tell if I'm a grandmaster of combat?" The players were stunned by his roar, and then they said, "Your levels are so high, how can we tell?" Gu Fei was stunned, and then he returned an appraisal with a backhand. Although their standards were not high, he could still tell their levels. The players under the boulder were all below level 40. Gu Fei immediately realized that this was necessary. If Shi Xiaotian wanted to impersonate him, he could disguise his equipment, but he couldn't disguise his class. Therefore, he had to choose those whose levels were lower than his, or else he would be exposed immediately with an appraisal. Helpless, Gu Fei sighed and said, "I'm not 100 lives Jingluan, I'm drunk Qianli." Immediately, there was an uproar, and it lasted for a long time. Many players looked at the two guys in identical attire standing on the boulder. They never thought that they would be able to witness the real and fake Monkey King in their lifetime. Are there any Grandmasters of Combat down there? Please use Hugging Throw to throw a bonfire patrol up here, Gu Fei shouted. The players looked at each other for a while. Finally, there was a Grandmaster of Combat who went to pull the monsters over. When he reached the boulder, he swung his arm, and the monsters crashed into the wall. Gu Fei facepalmed. The experience from yesterday replayed before his eyes. This batch of apprentices was probably lured here by Shi Xiaotian from other leveling areas. Their standards were inferior to those who could train alone in the wilderness. Another few Grandmasters of Combat came out, and they pulled the monsters and threw them into a mess. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted from the crowd of people who were looking at him with disdain. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a priest walk out from the crowd. The staff in his hand was like a pointer, and he pointed at one of the Grandmasters of Combat. Maintain this position. The Grandmaster of Combat had already grabbed the monster and was about to throw it. If he remained still, the monster would resist. Just as he was about to laugh at this unrealistic request, he was suddenly bathed in white light. The priest cast a healing spell, and the HP that he had lost due to the struggle of the monster was replenished. After a moment of shock, the person realized that he wouldn't die so easily, so he obeyed the priest and remained still. A little more to the right. Just this way. From this angle, can you see it clearly? My staff is pointing here. Look, I told you to look at the staff. Where are you looking? The priest held the staff and poked at the player, helping him adjust his direction. At the same time, he cast a healing spell from time to time, helping him resist the struggles of the monsters. Even when he was busy, he took out a bottle and drank a few mouthfuls of wine. All right, this direction, this angle. Throw it with all your might, don't deviate. The Han family young master finally finished adjusting. The Grandmaster of Combat was skeptical. He only felt that the angle and direction that the Han family young master helped him adjust was a little unreasonable. However, it didn't take much effort to give it a try. He hugged his body with both hands and threw. The monster obediently flew out from the direction that the Han family young master had pointed out. It flew in a calculated arc and landed steadily on the boulder. Wow! Everyone exclaimed, thinking that this priest was really a master. However, after taking a closer look at the appearance, everyone was puzzled. What was going on today? When Qianli was drunk, they couldn't tell if he was a man or a woman. Now there was a guy standing in front of them that they couldn't even tell if he was a man or a woman. What day was today? At this time, Shi Xiaoyun, who was on the boulder, cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, pay attention." The players immediately perked up. This was bought with money, who wouldn't dare to ignore it. Then, they saw Shi Xiaotian go up and give the monster 2 slashes. The monster flipped over and stood up. Without even looking at Shi Xiaotian, it jumped down from the boulder and pounced on the Han family young master. Everyone was dumbfounded. Could this be the secret behind this efficient playstyle? So when they saw that the young master of the Han family, a cleric, was being scratched, but no one came to help him. Everyone carefully memorized everything that had happened before their eyes. Gu Fei was so happy on the boulder that he was about to suffocate. The reason was actually very simple. The Grandmaster of Combat did not attack the monster after holding it, and the Han family young master was giving him pointers and healing him at the same time. He had accumulated a lot of aggro and was already OT. After the pointers were done, the monster was thrown onto the boulder. In the end, Shi Xiaotian's aggro control was obviously not up to standard. He was not able to quickly pull the monster's aggro away. When the monster got up, didn't it go straight for the Han family young master who had the most aggro? Io. After the monster got up and jumped off the boulder, Xiaotian had already realized the problem, but it was too late. Below, the Han family young master was being chased around by the monster, and the other players were watching intently. Not bad. It was not easy to see the Han family young master's pathetic state. At this time, Gu Fei was in a good mood. Stop laughing, get down here. Han family young master roared angrily. A mere level 45 monster was not enough to force him to his death. However, at this time, whether it was dodging or relying on the pitiful damage of the cleric to kill the monster, it was an extremely unsightly way of fighting. At this time, Han family young master was dodging awkwardly. Coming. When Gu Fei jumped off the boulder, he had already waved his hand and unsheathed his sword. In the air, he swung his wrist twice, and the flashing light on the blade of the sword seemed to have a sequence as it spun on the body of the monster. The monster was instantly killed. Throughout the entire game, Gu Fei was the only one capable of dealing damage twice with a single skill. However, the problem was that the majority of players couldn't even see through this. At this moment, in the eyes of the crowd of players, Gu Fei had only used a single dual flame flash to kill this level 45 monster. Immediately, screams filled the air. In the end, who was the real Qianli? This was the best proof. Combined with everything that had happened before, everyone finally understood what was going on. Xiaotian, who was still on the boulder, instantly became the target of thousands of people's criticism. Liar! Amidst the angry roars, some people picked up stones and soil on the ground and threw them. These were all melee professions. As for the ranged professions, they drew their bows and fired their spells. In an instant, the entire 9527 rock seemed to have changed appearance. Before Gu Fei could say a word, Xiaotian, who was on the boulder, had already disappeared. The players still felt that they had not vented their anger and were still cursing loudly. However, very quickly, some people realized that they had already paid the money. Now that the person had been killed by them, they could not even chase after him even if they wanted to. In an instant, everyone began to reprimand each other, blaming each other for acting too quickly and for waiting for the girl to spit out the money that she had taken from everyone. After arguing for a long time, there was no conclusion. In the end, a bunch of people threw pitiful gazes at Gu Fei. This was an attempt to gain Gu Fei's sympathy so that he would pay for the scammers. Before Gu Fei could speak, the Han family young master had already shouted, "Why? You want to learn? If you want to learn, then say it. How would we know if you don't tell us? Although you are looking at us with sincerity, you still have to tell us if you want to learn." Yes, yes. Everyone nodded vigorously. No one was bothered by the Han family young master's Tripitaka. 99 gold coins per person. The Han family young master definitely did not have a compassionate heart. Everyone wailed, but they also felt that the idea of getting Qianli to pay for the scammers was too bold and too unrealistic. They did not dare to say much, and many of them had already reached for their wallets. Gu Fei wanted to say something after glaring at the Han family young master, but was once again interrupted by the Han family young master. However, it seems like everyone is not very lucky today and has worked so hard. In that case, I'll teach everyone for free. Everyone was overjoyed when they heard this. They nodded frantically and thanked him. This is the only time. Next time, I'll have to charge you as usual. The Han family young master said. Next time? Everyone was confused. Wouldn't it be over once they learned it? What next time? The Han family young master smiled mysteriously. Do you guys think that our method of farming monsters is only for the bonfire patrol? In fact, we will develop different methods of farming monsters for different monsters. We will be showing it to everyone in the coming days. Please pay attention to the forum or other aspects of the game. There will be all kinds of monsters? Everyone's eyes widened. Of course. The Han family young master said. Is there XXXX? A player said the name of a monster. There will be, everything will be there. The Han family young master said. Then I want to learn this. This player immediately signed up. With this, there were immediately countless people who wanted to learn the names of the monsters. Everyone be quiet. The Han family young master was unexpectedly patient. Currently, we are only teaching the bonfire patrol. If you want to learn other methods, please pay attention to the information that we will release at any time. Who are you guys? Someone asked. Child Elite Group. The Han family young master smiled. The players quickly memorized this name. The Child Elite Group's reputation was more well known in Cloud City. The outer city wasn't so eye-catching. Too ruthless. Gu Fei sighed. The Han family young master already knew that with his personality, there was a high chance that he would pay for the scammers and give away this profitable business. He also knew that he wouldn't be able to convince Gu Fei, so he went with the flow and turned this event into an official promotion. The players in front of him, no matter if they were selfish and secretly paid attention to this news, or if they were gossipy and spread the news everywhere, it would be beneficial to their business. These players were potential customers in the future, as well as advertising. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. Apart from this, Gu Fei also discovered another benefit of the Han family young master's method of teaching monsters. It allowed the players to generate a large amount of repeated spending. For example, players were flocking to learn how to fight the bonfire patrol, but the leveling area was limited and it was impossible for everyone to train with this monster. Therefore, when a new service was introduced, it was likely that a considerable number of players who had learned how to fight the bonfire patrol would run over to learn the new way to fight it. If this cycle continued, knowing an additional skill was equivalent to having an additional resource. This was because a leveling area without a matching skill would never enter the eyes of the players. Therefore, not everyone would just learn one skill and be done with it. More people would choose 2, 3, or even all of them. Could it be that this guy wanted to create this situation when he said he wanted to recruit 5 times the number of players in the leveling area? What are you spacing out for? Hurry up and teach. The Han family young master saw that Gu Fei was spacing out and yelled, "I'll lure the monsters up myself," Gu Fei said as he walked out of the circle. After attacking a monster, he ran back to the boulder and teleported up the boulder. The boulder wasn't something that couldn't be climbed without teleportation. Normal climbing could also be done, but it was more tiring and undignified. Of course, the monsters weren't afraid of this. They chased after Gu Fei's footsteps and climbed up the boulder. Gu Fei took this opportunity to take 2 small steps back. She tilted her head to the side and said softly, "You have to tell me which one I should teach, right? How do you know I'm not dead?" The top of the boulder was strangely shaped. A stone slab and a stone platform formed a sandwich, and half of Shi Xiaoyan's head popped out. Just now, she had quickly shrunk into the middle, which was why she hadn't been hit by so many attacks. "Nonsense, I don't have good eyesight," Gu Fei said. "Oh, according to your personality, are you going to throw me down now?" Shi Xiaotian said. "If you want, I don't mind. Don't, I still want to live. Then hide well. The strategy is to use a one-handed sword without agility," Shi Xiaotian told Gu Fei. At this time, the monsters had already climbed up the platform. Gu Fei took a step forward and shouted to the players below the platform, "It's starting." He immediately began to fight the monsters. This strategy was developed by 100 Lives Statecraft. Gu Fei had only seen other players practice it on the way here. However, Gu Fei's level couldn't be compared to theirs. First, Gu Fei had already studied the attack habits of the bonfire patrol, so Gu Fei knew 100 Lives Statecraft's strategy at a glance. In Gu Fei's eyes, every move and the connection between them had a cause and effect. In this way, he didn't need to memorize it. As long as he followed this train of thought, Gu Fei could also play a set. Even if the details were slightly different from 100 Lives Statecraft, it wasn't a big problem. At this time, Gu Fei was using a broken one-handed sword. As he explained, he slowly killed the monster. After that, he didn't bother others. He ran down the boulder and lured another one back, repeating the process. The players listened to Gu Fei's teachings with pious expressions. Because these players weren't like Gu Fei's students, Gu Fei would personally guide them after teaching. Therefore, after killing the second monster, Gu Fei lured a third one, striving to kill it in one go. At this time, some players felt that they had mastered it and were eager to find monsters to practice. Gu Fei didn't care. After killing the third monster, he looked at the crowd. Do you all know how to do it? Yes. Okay, then it's over. Gu Fei clapped his hands and jumped off the boulder. At this time, the players weren't in the mood to get close to him. They couldn't wait to try it themselves. After a few random greetings, they all rushed to the group of monsters. In an instant, there was a bunch of competitors in the wilderness camp, and the sound of cursing could be heard. Gu Fei didn't stay idle. He rushed out again and soon lured another monster back. He also instantly jumped onto the boulder. At this time, Shi Xiaotian had already come out of hiding. The Han family young master wasn't surprised to see her, but the two of them were puzzled by Gu Fei's action of pulling back another monster. It's your turn. Gu Fei pointed at the crawling monster and said to Shi Xiaotian. Shi Xiaotian was a little confused. The Han family's young master pressed his forehead and sighed to the heavens. This fellow is really frighteningly rigid sometimes. Chapter 602. Only then did Shi Xiaotian understand. Gu Fei still wanted to see if she had grasped this efficient strategy and could teach it to other players. Helping her cover up before was just to give her a chance to prove herself. If she couldn't pass, the result would be the same as being thrown into the group of angry players. It was death, but this time, it would be Gu Fei doing it. Give me the sword. Shi Xiaotian extended her hand. Gu Fei threw the broken sword in his hand to her. The monster climbed up the boulder with great difficulty and was immediately hit in the head. This time, the aggro of the monsters wasn't that high, and Shi Xiaotian managed to pull the aggro of the monsters with a few attacks. He took 2 steps back and looked back at Gu Fei. Watch closely, I won't reveal any openings in a place like this. After saying this, she turned around and started attacking monsters. She was using the zero agility long weapon strategy developed by 100 Realms Classics. Moreover, her character was clearly the same as Gu Fei. She had added agility, but in order to demonstrate this zero agility strategy, she controlled her attack speed. Gu Fei's hand was already on his sword because he thought that even if Shi Xiaotian could grasp the strategy, she wouldn't be able to control her speed like this. It was easy to go all out, but to hold back 90% of one's strength required a certain level of skill. Gu Fei didn't think that Shi Xiaotian could do it. From the looks of it, this woman had indeed made ample preparations. Just like how she had carefully selected a bunch of low-level players who couldn't possibly identify her class, she had also done ample practice on this strategy in order to not reveal any flaws. Even though she was annoying, it had to be said that she was very good at lying. And it was this kind of care that made Gu Fei feel at a loss when dealing with her. This was because this kind of care was too similar to Gu Fei's care for martial arts. Sometimes, Gu Fei couldn't help but resonate with it. Just like now, Gu Fei was no longer paying attention to how Shi Xiaotian was fighting monsters. Since he could even control his own speed, there was no way he would have any problems with his routine. As Shi Xiaotian defeated the monster, Gu Fei loosened his grip on his sword. How is it? Is it enough to teach those people? Shi Xiaotian asked. Enough. Gu Fei had to admit it, but his expression didn't look any better. But since you're here. Shi Xiaotian reached into his pocket, took out a few bags of money, and handed them to Gu Fei. Gu Fei took a look. There were 3,000 gold pouches and 4,000 character pouches. Are they all here? Gu Fei asked. 342 people, 99 gold coins per person, Shi Xiaotian replied. Beauty, you're too courteous. You've worked hard too. Han family young master suddenly interrupted. He was quite surprised that Shi Xiaotian would voluntarily hand over such a large sum of money. Over 30,000 gold coins. Perhaps many people would rather die than do that. Shi Xiaotian revealed a helpless expression. If I don't hand it over, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. I agree. This guy is just so inflexible and ruthless at times. Han family young master said. I've never seen you talk so much. Gu Fei jumped up and landed next to Han family young master. Because if it was me, I might be willing to die once for 30,000 gold coins. Han family young master said. You took advantage of the game's loophole. Shi Shaoan also came down from the large rock. Han family young master knew that she was referring to the resurrection in the game. He shook his head. I originally admired you, but who would have thought that not only would you not use the rules, but you would also set the rules for yourself? How boring. A game with rules is only interesting, Shi Shaotian said. Isn't resurrection the game's rule? It's just the game's rule. In my game, staying alive is the most important. Shi Shaotian replied. Han family young master shrugged his shoulders and gave Shi Shaotian his usual look of disdain. He wasn't polite at all just because she was a beauty. Can I leave now? Shi Shaotian looked at Gu Fei. If you want to earn money, maybe you can come with us. Gu Fei suddenly said. No need, your content isn't my game. Shi Shaotian said. Will you die if you don't lie to us? Gu Fei frowned. No, but I'll probably be like you who can't use Kung Fu. Shi Shaotian said. Gu Fei was depressed. He hated the fact that he appreciated Shi Shaotian to a certain extent, but it was always like this. Bye-bye. Shi Shaoyan waved his hand and left. This woman is sick. Han family young master concluded. Obviously. Gu Fei agreed. You too. Han family young master didn't let go of Gu Fei. I think you don't want to split the money? Gu Fei waved the 30,000 gold coins in front of Han family young master. Han family young master waved his hand and pushed it away. He snorted, it's just a small profit. Do you think you can corrupt me with this little bit of money? After the money bag was put away, Han family young master saw the night streamer. Okay, let's go. Han family young master nodded. Where are we going next? Gu Fei asked. To see if those brats are working hard. Han family young master said. The brats, in Han family young master's words, didn't neglect their work. After all, they were quite enthusiastic about making money. Apart from Yutian Shinming, who had some difficulty in identifying the roads, the other three were already investigating the data of the leveling areas according to the areas they had divided. In the afternoon, Bai Jingluan finally showed up. This guy spent the night with Brother Yu. Brother Yu couldn't wait to return to the game, but this guy slept soundly. Just like Gu Fei, he also paid attention to taking care of his body. Do you know how much money we earned last night? Bai Jingluan messaged Gu Fei the moment he logged on. I heard. Gu Fei replied. 1841 people, 99 gold each. How much is it in total? Bai Jingluan said. Are you crazy? Gu Fei asked. 182,259 gold. What do you think? Don't you also like to see this number? It's scary, right? Did it scare you? Bai Jingluan said. Gu Fei took a deep breath. Although he felt that Bai Jingluan was a bit crazy, this number was indeed a bit scary. Gu Fei's Night Streak sword, which couldn't be any more overpowered, had been auctioned off by Slender Waist Dance for 20,000 gold coins. Perhaps the players didn't even know that 180,000 gold coins was an astronomical sum. Is the money with you? Gu Fei asked. Yeah, brother, you told me to keep it for now. He's such a good person. Bai Jingluan's words were filled with happiness. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. Brother Yu wasn't a bad person, but he wasn't that good either. He knew the importance of Bai Jingluan and Gu Fei in this deal. The two of them were the absolute core of the technology. Without them, nothing could be done. Therefore, it was necessary to give the two of them a huge benefit. Gu Fei didn't want to analyze his friend from this angle, but he couldn't help it. It was always like this when benefits were involved. Ahem, then we'll find some people to cooperate with. Did he tell you? Gu Fei asked. Yes. Now, we've made some adjustments to our strategy. Gu Fei told Bai Jingluan about the Han family young master's improved plan. Amazing! The encyclopedic strategist was full of admiration, and he deeply felt how terrible his promotion was at the beginning. Then what do we do now? Bai Jingluan was full of energy and fighting spirit. We'll do as much as we can at the wilderness camp, Gu Fei said. Okay, I'll be right there. After Gu Fei and the Han family young master went around the other leveling areas, They finally returned to the wilderness camp and occupied the 9527 stone that no one else dared to occupy. The impact of piracy was fierce. There were already countless self-proclaimed professional masters in the wilderness camp, fiercely fighting for students. Meanwhile, Gu Fei and the others were stubbornly guarding the price of 99 gold coins. They were already unique in the wilderness camp. Gu Fei stood up straight. Of the 10 players who came over, 9 were only here to admire the legendary 1,000 Miles Drunk. The remaining one had asked for the price, but after seeing the deserted area, he also left hesitantly. Faced with this situation, the Han family young master didn't say anything and only sneered. However, after Bai Jingluan arrived, he was not used to such a deserted area. He was very anxious. Why is it like this? Why isn't anyone here? Now even the price of 20 gold coins is out. Gu Fei said, that's why I said these people are useless. Apart from lowering the price, they can't even think of any other way to increase the competition. A bunch of idiots. The Han family young master said in disdain. What else can they do? Gu Fei asked. For example, that beauty just now. She disguised herself as you. That's a very effective method. The Han family young master said. Then what do we do now? Lower the price? Bai Jingluan asked anxiously. No need. The Han family young master was calm. The wilderness camp is already a farce. Our appearance is just for show. Don't worry, our real market is still behind us. It is indeed very noisy. Gu Fei stood on 9527 stone and could see a bit further. He muttered to himself, the wilderness camp is too lively right now. Compared to the impact of the pirated version on Gu Fei and the others, the impact of their leveling method on the entire leveling area was greater. After yesterday's experience, the news had already spread throughout White Stone City. Players above level 40 were now flocking to the wilderness camp. As long as they mastered this leveling method, the bonfire patrol would have double or even triple the experience. How could the players not care? Players who were used to forming teams and didn't care about the solo leveling area all sharpened their brains to come here. The Han family young master stood next to Gu Fei. With a pair of binoculars, he looked at the leveling area and understood it better than Gu Fei. Right now, most people were still in the learning stage. The teaching demonstration only required one small monster, so most people were just watching. When everyone mastered this method and started to use it, it would really become lively. Right now, there were about 3 or 4 monsters in this leveling area, enough for one player to continuously level. However, if one mastered this method and increased their efficiency, they would probably need 7 or 8 or even more to satisfy one person's appetite. Moreover, the number of people had increased by so much. Looking at this bustling scene, maybe our business needs to speed up. It looks like there won't be any problems here. Why don't I guard here and you guys use this time to study the other monsters? Han family young master said. What if someone else comes? 100 Generation strategist didn't want to give up. He couldn't believe that the business that was so crowded last night had become so deserted overnight. Then I'll call you guys back urgently. Han family young master said. All right. Gu Fei nodded and the two of them left. How are you guys? Han family young master sent a message to the sword demon and the others. We're almost there. Where are you? Sword demon asked. 9527 stone, this way. Han family young master replied. Not long after, he saw Sword Demon, unscathed in battle, and Yutian Shenming walking in the direction of 9527 stone through the binoculars. After the three approached, the Han family young master, who was sitting on top of the boulder, expressed his sympathy. Of course, the three of them weren't happy with the Han family young master's tone. After a random greeting, they climbed up the boulder and looked at the surrounding scenery. The four of them didn't speak, and the scene was a little quiet. Don't you guys think that this method of fighting monsters created by Qianli is like something else? Finally, after watching for a while, Sword Demon suddenly spoke. Unscathed in battle and Yutian Shenming looked at each other. It was obvious that they already had an answer in their hearts, or rather, they already had the same feeling as Sword Demon, but it was Sword Demon who said it first. You mean? The two didn't answer directly, leaving it to Sword Demon to speak first. A cheat. Sword Demon wasn't as humble and polite as the two of them. The two of them were silent. It was obvious that this was the answer in their hearts. Of course, this isn't actually a cheat. It definitely isn't. But I don't know why, but I can't help but think of a cheat. Sword Demon said. That's right. Unscathed in battle and Yutian Shenming nodded. They were all hardcore masters, and they had a deep understanding and experience of online games. To some extent, their thinking was also similar. What do you think? Sword Demon looked at Han Family Young Master. It's definitely not a cheat. Han Family Young Master said, but because it's definitely not a cheat, it's scarier than a cheat. As expected. Sword Demon said, I feel this way because although it's not a cheat, it has the same impact on the game as a cheat? No, I said it's scarier than a cheat. The officials can take many measures to block and restrict cheats, but for this, what can the officials do? Take back all the monsters and remake them? What a joke. With the current technical strength, this level of intelligence is already the limit for the monsters. No matter how it changes, Qianli can still find such an efficient way to fight, Han Family Young Master said. So, that Hongshan Xiao guy who keeps saying that he wants to harmonize with Qianli actually has a reason, right? Unscathed in battle said. Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming were silent, as if thinking about this problem. Han Family Young Master was already laughing coldly. What kind of reason is that? Qianli is a human, not a machine. It's their game that's too fucking trashy. If we want to harmonize, we should harmonize their game. The three of them wiped their sweat. Just now, he said that the game had reached the limit of its technical skills. Now, he said that even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. In the end, he turned around and said that the game was too trashy. Originally, brother, you made this matter quite simple, but you raised it to another level. Actually, you're challenging that guy, right? Sword Demon said. Nonsense, is that idiot worth me going out of my way to challenge him? This is just us on the bright path of earning money, and at the same time, let him die without a burial place. Han Family Young Master said. The three of them wiped their sweat again. Also, Han Family Young Master looked at Sword Demon aggressively. My plan is only one level higher than Brother Yu's? Why aren't you dead yet? Sword Demon asked with a dark face. Qianli shouldn't know about this, right? Yutian Shenming asked. Han Family Young Master nodded. That guy doesn't have a deep understanding of the game. He definitely won't be able to notice so much in such a short period of time. You guys should be kind and not mention it to him. When that guy becomes abnormal, who knows what kind of crazy things he'll do. You're the one who's always crazy, right? The three of them said in unison. Damn, have you guys done the statistics on the various leveling areas? Han Family Young Master changed the topic. The three of them each took out the information on the other leveling areas in Whitestone City that they had compiled, while talking about what they saw. Due to the impact of the wilderness camp, the few leveling areas in Whitestone City had a certain degree of desolation. The players that were still leveling there generally felt that there were very few people today. Of course, these were the players that still didn't know about the situation in the wilderness camp. Those that knew had already run over, not wasting a second. Right now, this effect is still only within the Whitestone City area. But it'll probably spread to the world soon. Brother Yu is online. Sword Demon said. Brothers, I'm back. Brother Yu was in high spirits. It seemed like the promotion on the forums was going well. It's been hard on you. Han Family Young Master sent a message. Brother Yu could imagine this guy's attitude when he said these three words, and he also felt a wave of discomfort. It was undoubtedly a tragedy to have a boss like this in real life. He could erase your sense of accomplishment at any time and make you feel regret for your efforts. How's it going? Brother Yu asked. Everything is going well. Everyone said. They had just discussed the cheat-like matter, but they tacitly didn't mention a word about it in the channel. Gu Fei could also see the chat in the channel. What's Qianli doing? Brother Yu asked. He's doing development. Gu Fei replied. Brother Yu asked. Sandwall, Gu Fei replied. The Sandwall was a large area outside of White Stone City, where a group of Sandwall bandits roamed. Unlike the bonfire patrols, the Sandwall bandits had the same name, but there were different versions of the Sandwall bandits. Every class was included, and they were scattered around the Sandwall. Sometimes they were alone, and sometimes they were in groups. The best part was when the various classes were paired together, like a team of players. This leveling area was mainly a leveling area for teams. It was quite difficult for a solo player to survive here. Brother, you clearly knew the situation there. The monsters, there are many professions. Which one do you want to fight? What's there to pick? We'll just research each one. Gu Fei said. Han family young master also said to the three beside him, what an intelligent cheat. Brother, you was still analyzing from a business point of view. This kind of leveling area can be put aside for now. Let's first develop a leveling area for solo players, like the White Mill. Chapter 603. White Mill. Alright, let's go there and take a look. Gu Fei replied and rushed to the White Mill with 100 Era's strategist. What about us? What should we do now? The rest of the players asked. Let's just watch from here. A good show is about to begin, Han family young master said calmly. Everything was as Han family young master had expected. As the news spread, more and more players gathered at the wilderness campsite. Perhaps some people still held some doubts about the efficiency of the method. However, when they set foot on the land of the wilderness camp and saw the lively scene of many players before them, their doubts vanished like smoke in thin air. The players peddling pirated copies of the game were so happy that they couldn't close their mouths. Seeing waves of players arriving, they no longer had to worry about the source of students. Moreover, seeing that many players had money bags in their hands but couldn't find anyone to pay, these players who only cared about the benefits in front of them waved their hands and started raising the price. Since they were afraid that no one would teach them, they didn't have to worry that no one would learn from them. These players were more daring than the other, and the tuition fees were higher and higher. After a few waves, not to mention the lowest price of 20 gold coins, even the initial 99 gold coins that Gu Fei and the others offered became the lowest price. This situation was something that even Han family young master didn't expect. Even though they knew about this situation, there were still a few players wandering around. When they passed by the 9527 rock, they suspiciously sized up the 4 silly guys sitting on the big rock. Bro, what are you guys doing? Someone asked curiously. Efficient method of killing monsters, 99 gold coins per person, Han family young master answered casually, not even looking at the people below him. He had answered this question countless times, and the players who heard him thought that he was crazy for charging such a high price and then leaving. 99 gold coins, so cheap. The guy below shouted at the top of his lungs, causing Han family young master to almost slide off the rock. He quickly put down the binoculars in his hand and looked at the group of guests below the rock. 99 gold coins was cheap? What's going on? There were originally 5 players under the boulder. When they heard the bid of 99 gold coins, they grew excited. And because of that guy's shout just now, he attracted a lot of players. They all shouted along the way, 99 gold coins is so cheap? Or is it? He's not a scammer, is he? Han family young master's brain worked really fast. In an instant, he understood that because of this swarm of people, these pirates had forgotten themselves and actually started to raise their prices. How much is it over there now? Han family young master pointed at several teaching places in his sight. More than 200 each. The player under the boulder replied. That's ruthless, said the Han family young master. Although the standard of living of players had improved, the majority of players in this business were level 40 and above. Although several hundred gold was still affordable, the majority of players who had never been lucky would only have a few hundred gold on hand right now. Paying 200 gold would definitely make them bleed. Compared to that, 99 gold was much more acceptable. Your 99 gold coins, what do you teach? When the new players heard the price of 99 gold coins, they actually had some doubts. They had no idea how much had happened in this day and night in the wilderness camp. Don't worry, no one is more genuine than us, said the Han family young master. Can you demonstrate it for us to see? A customer asked to inspect the goods. I'm sorry, before the number of people reaches the requirement, we won't be starting classes, said the Han family young master. Number of people? Someone looked around. Out of all the teaching places, this was the most deserted. Speaking of which, 9527 Rock was a rather remote place in the wilderness camp. Those who didn't understand the situation would go to places with more people and rarely stroll past this place. This was why the low price of 99 gold coins for the Han family young master and the others hadn't been discovered until now. How many people do you need? Someone asked. 1,000. The Han family young master's tone was very arrogant. You're crazy. Someone questioned. He had been to several areas, but he didn't see any place that had 1,000 students. In our area, 1,000 people is considered small. The Han family's young master pointed at their blessed 9,527 stones. However, the normal players didn't care about this. They just wanted to learn the efficient way to kill monsters as soon as possible. For a moment, there was a lot of noise, and they wanted to start teaching immediately. The 9527 Rock had always been deserted because it was deserted. Now that there was suddenly a bit of popularity, it immediately became like a magnet. Some people came over to take a look, and when they heard the price of 99 gold coins, they immediately shouted and shouted for the teaching to start. In fact, the Han family young master didn't have to be as principled as 1,000 people. The key was that Gu Fei and the Encyclopedia of Classics weren't here, so he couldn't teach them even if he wanted to, right? When the player exclaimed that 99 gold coins was so cheap, the Han family young master immediately realized that he was going to succeed. He had already called Gu Fei and the others over, and he was just stalling for time. Everyone, don't be noisy. Seeing that you've been walking around for so long, you must know that there are 2 ways to kill monsters. Those who want to learn agility, stand on my left, and those who want to learn agility, stand on my right, shouted the Han family young master. In the end, there were some new players who didn't even know about these 2 ways to kill monsters. They were looked down upon as soon as they asked. However, the Han family young master was happy to have another chance to stall for time, so he explained to them slowly and patiently. The others were very impatient. Almost every time the Han family young master said something, they would shout along with him. The Han family young master was also very patient. When these people shouted together, he immediately shut up. When they were done shouting, the Han family young master would start from the beginning again. The group of people broke down and didn't dare to shout anymore. They followed the Han family young master and learned it again. During this time, more and more players were rushing toward them. Before the Han family young master and the others said anything, a player quickly explained, 99 gold coins. Those with agility, stand on the left. Those without agility, stand on the right. Quick. The look in the eyes of the sword demon and the others gradually changed. In their eyes, the players under the boulder weren't players, but 99s. There were so many 99s that they couldn't even count them all. This, said and scathed in battle excitedly, it's very inconvenient to collect money. There are too many people, so I can't remember who paid and who didn't. Brother you, how did you guys do it yesterday? Asked the sword demon in the channel. Heh, we had registration forms yesterday. We used them as tickets. Brother you was proud. He marked the registration forms one by one and returned them to them after they paid. Although Brother you couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be people who didn't pay at all and mixed in with the crowd when the lesson started, he received all the fees for those who paid. With this guarantee, he didn't care if there were a few people who fished in troubled waters. No matter what, it was better than the bewildered sword demon and the others. It happened in a hurry, so let's deal with it. There aren't too many people, and we have quite a few people. We should be able to take care of them. Damn it, Qianli, can't you hurry up? The Han family young master glanced around. There were already more than 100 people gathered. It was still far from the 1,000 that he bragged about. But now that there were 1,000 people gathered, collecting money in such a disorderly situation was indeed a big problem. Why isn't it starting yet? Why isn't it starting yet? The people below were still questioning. Does anyone else have any questions? The Han family young master welcomed them with a smile. No, no. Everyone shouted. In the end, the Han family young master pointed in a direction. Brother, you speak. Everyone turned around and saw a player raising his hand when the Han family young master asked him if there was any question. They all had the urge to tear him apart. After the guy shrunk back, he mustered up his courage and asked his question, "How much?" 99 gold coins. A bunch of angry roars drowned him. On the stage, the Han family young master continued to smile and replied calmly, "Not bad, 99 gold coins per person." Start. Everyone continued to shout in unison. Since everyone is so passionate, then let's make an exception and start with such a small number of people. The Han family young master acted like he was very generous and said, "Please hand over the money first." After saying that, he signaled the sword demon and the other two to jump off the stage. The Han family young master had already made arrangements in the channel to let these people collect the money slowly. It should be enough to delay them until Qianli arrived. What are you delaying for? Can't you just tell them that the teacher hasn't arrived yet? Yutian Shenming said. Didn't you see that they are already suspicious of the 99 gold coins being treated as a low price? Moreover, if the teacher arrives later, would they still dare to trust us? The Han family young master said. That's right. Trust is very important. Brother Yu was experienced. Last night, he was very slow in collecting the money. After all, this wasn't something that could be collected at the same time. Many players were so careful that they had the urge to kill him. As expected, the moment the Han family young master mentioned collecting the money, he was immediately rebuffed. Someone shouted, "Let's demonstrate first." The request to see the goods was indeed reasonable. The Han family young master couldn't find an excuse, so he nodded and said, "Okay, can someone go and pull a small monster over?" There were always people who were very enthusiastic about this. Immediately, someone ran over and pulled a small monster back. The Han family young master nodded and said, "Bring it up." The Han family young master had just witnessed this. It wasn't easy for normal players to accurately pull a small monster onto the large rock. Using this opportunity, they could buy quite a bit of time. The Han family young master's evil plan once again succeeded. The group of players were at their wits' end against the small monsters. They had already tormented 3 of them to death. They hadn't even reached half of the 9,527 stones. The sword demon and the others couldn't bear to watch anymore. Finally, someone couldn't help but say, "You chose this place. You should be responsible for pulling the small monsters up." But then let us do it. The Han family young master agreed immediately because he could already see Gu Fei's black figure in his line of sight. Bring a monster over. The Han family young master sent a message to Gu Fei. Then he saw Gu Fei, who was running away, casually slashing a small monster and rushing over. At this time, the players received permission from the Han family young master, but they didn't move. Just as they were about to ask again, someone saw Gu Fei run over with the small monster. When he reached the large rock, he used teleportation and floated up. The Han family young master moved to the side as he sent a message in the channel, "Demonstration, do it beautifully, but don't let people learn it after seeing it." After sending the message, he walked to the side and led the applause. Demonstration begins, everyone clap. The players clapped blankly. For a moment, they didn't understand why a black-robed mage suddenly appeared. Gu Fei politely cupped his fists at the many players under the rock and immediately started the demonstration. He didn't hold back, nor did he use double flame flash. He quickly killed the small monster in a step-by-step manner and smiled at the others. This doesn't seem like it?" Someone asked. "Yes, your movements are so fast. This is agility, right? With agility, why are you using a long weapon?" Although some players hadn't learned it yet, they understood quite a bit. Gu Fei smiled faintly. "This is something we specially use for demonstration purposes. Everyone is an expert, so what matters is the technique. Whether it's agility or weapon, I'm sure that all of you are aware of the word efficiency. If you decide to learn, I will teach the 2 fighting styles you need to the brothers who need them. Some of the players might not really be experts, but when they heard Gu Fei call them experts, they were very happy and wanted to pay up. The Sword Demon and the other 2 received the money and thought that Gu Fei was really shameless. When the Han family young master told him not to demonstrate, he let others learn it. This guy just took out a 3rd set to demonstrate. Agility and long weapon. It sounded like nothing, but in the game, if one wasn't as skilled as Gu Fei, would they dare to play around like this? In the end, the money didn't end because there were constantly players coming over. Previously, it had been deserted because it was deserted. Now, it was bustling because it was bustling. The new players were asking about the price and asking about this and that. Some of the previous players had paid and waited for a long time, but they still hadn't learned anything. All of them were anxious and looked behind them. They weren't hoping for people to come, but hoping that no one would come. Is it really going to be 1,000? Someone said with a sad face. Gu Fei stood on the boulder and saw it clearly. This trend was more than 1,000. It was going to be 2,000 plus last night. This was how the snowball rolled. How about this? The Han family young master came to Gu Fei's side and said, "You teach while they collect money. The people in front will naturally leave after they learn it, and the people in the back will take their place." Gu Fei squinted. "You mean I'll be playing here? You can rest for 10 minutes every 45 minutes. You're a teacher, so you should be used to it," said the Han family young master. "Do you believe that I won't kick you down right now?" said Gu Fei. "But look, it's really because the crowd is too enthusiastic." The Han family young master pointed at the players who continued to gather at the 9,527 stone. "If this keeps happening, 100 generations Jingluan and I won't be able to handle it," said Gu Fei. "That's why I proposed the internal recruitment plan early on, but this is an unexpected situation. Do you know why? Those pirated goods started raising the price because more and more people were learning. Now, 99 gold coins has become the lowest price in the wilderness," said the Han family young master. "How troublesome." Gu Fei frowned. This business seemed to be more complicated than he imagined. The reason was because the profits were too great. "So, I'll have to work hard," said the Han family young master. "But you're teaching 2 styles. How am I supposed to switch when you're teaching continuously?" Gu Fei pointed at the 2 groups of people lined up clearly. "What about 100 generations Jingluan?" asked the Han family young master. "He's still on the way. He's not as fast as me," said Gu Fei. "You teach one style first. The 2 of you take turns," said the Han family young master. "Brother, you knows it too," said Gu Fei. He found out from 100 generations Jingluan that Brother Yu learned the agility freestyle from 100 generations Jingluan yesterday and even received the luxury of one-on-one guidance. "Then tell Brother Yu to hurry over too," called the Han family young master. "And you, I'm going to teach the agility freestyle with long weapons. You should learn it too," said Gu Fei. "Fighting and killing." The Han family young master had a look of disdain. "I'm going to call in scathed in battle. They're also going to charge money," said Gu Fei. The 2 of them both realized that even the 7 people from the child elite group and 100 generations Jingluan might not be able to handle this deal. "Let's start first. We'll think of something later." Gu Fei was also helpless. "Begin." The young master of the Han family was extremely straightforward as he immediately announced to the bottom of the rock. There was a round of applause. "What are you shouting for? We haven't lured the monsters yet," Gu Fei said in disdain and jumped off the boulder to look for the monsters. Pulling back the monsters, Gu Fei leapt onto the rock. While the monsters were climbing, Gu Fei pointed at the group of warriors that didn't have agility. "Next, I'm going to teach you how to use long weapons without agility. Pay attention." The team cheered thunderously, while the other team was very depressed. "In order to make it easier for everyone to learn, I'll purposely slow down the pace and reduce the damage," Gu Fei explained. Otherwise, people would question his efficiency. They quickly used this method to kill the monsters. Gu Fei said, "Okay, everyone can find the monsters to practice with and come back later. I'll teach you guys next." Gu Fei pointed at the team with short weapons and agility freestyle. They were mainly thieves. Fuck, don't mess around. If they leave and come back, who knows if they've collected the money or not. In the channel, Unscathed in battle and the others were already shouting. Their hands were sore from collecting money and they were trying their best to remember who had paid and who hadn't. In the end, Gu Fei messed around and let a bunch of people go. When they all came back later, there would be a few who hadn't paid and no one would be able to recognize them. Although these people heard Gu Fei's words, they didn't move at all. Now that there were people behind them, it was a blessing to have a seat in the front row. If they went out now, who would leave a seat for them? So no one moved at all. Everyone was shouting at the top of their lungs, "Let's do it quickly. Let us learn it in one go." Gu Fei was startled. In the end, the thieves had the foresight. They also felt that Gu Fei's actions were not clean, so they nodded in agreement. Let's teach them first. We're not in a hurry. In fact, these guys also had their own selfish motives. Although they did not need that set of fighting styles, they could still learn it just by watching. Even if it was useless, learning one more set of fighting styles would still give them a great advantage. Moreover, in the future, they would be able to teach 2 sets of fighting styles by themselves. How great would that be? Gu Fei didn't guess the players' thoughts. He just followed their wishes and taught. After teaching the left side, he taught the right side. After teaching the right side, he taught the left side. As far as the eye could see, the densely packed crowd around the 9527 stone had gradually surpassed the 2,000 people from last night, and it was still growing. Chapter 604. 100th Era Strategist had also arrived at 9,527 stone. He was excited to see the crowd that was even more ferocious than the day before. He did not show any signs of resistance like Gu Fei. He carried a small monster and rushed in from the outside. He flew up to 9,527 stone, rolled up his sleeves and shouted, "Let me do it." Gu Fei had just finished another round of teaching. He heaved a sigh of relief, took 2 steps back and laid on the ground. 100th Era Strategist pulled himself together and continued teaching after Gu Fei. The players below were also energized, and their impression of Gu Fei's group deepened. There were actually 2 teachers who could take turns. How powerful was that? With such a strong teaching force, and the lowest price of 99 gold coins, someone immediately shouted an advertisement for Gu Fei's group. The price is cheap, and the quantity is sufficient. We like it. You guys like it, right? I'm going to lie down for a while. Gu Fei mumbled to himself as he listened to the cheers below the huge rock. The momentum of 9,527 stone was getting stronger, and it gradually impacted the piracy market. Think about how competitive it would be to have an authentic copy that was more than half the price of a pirated copy. For this, many people were willing to wait a little longer. When faced with the pirates who came to solicit business, they only had one word to say: scram. The pirates had fewer and fewer apprentices. Gradually, those who were willing to learn from them were players who wanted to save time and did not care about the money at the same time. However, this did not satisfy the pirates at all. They missed the days of prosperity and being pampered by others. But now, not only did they have to actively solicit business, many of them were still scolded by the word scram. What's going on? These people used to be competitors, but when they saw that the situation was not right, they could not help but gather together and whisper. In fact, after working for so long, these players had a lot of gold coins in their pockets, each of them more than the slender waist dancer. However, who would complain about having too much money? Seeing that there was so much money to be earned, but it was all going straight into other people's pockets, of course, everyone was very unhappy. It's from 9527 stone. They're still the same price as before, 99 gold coins. Someone had already gone over to understand the situation. It's Chinli drunk. They're here again. Someone sighed. The players who came later were not very clear about the situation, but those who were involved in the piracy business were relatively early participants. They knew the whole story, including Gu Fei's 3rd agility long weapon set. Initially, these people's thoughts were rather simple. They just wanted to get drunk from 1,000 miles away. It was impossible for them to teach 24 hours a day. They would take advantage of the time when they were not around to drink the leftovers from the meat they had eaten. But after eating it, they realized that the meat was too big. Even if Qianli got drunk, they wouldn't be able to finish it even if they worked 24 hours straight. So, of course, they weren't willing to just drink the soup. They all rushed out to grab the meat. The more they grabbed, the happier they became. They almost forgot about their ancestor, Qianli, when he got drunk. In the end, now that 1,000 miles drunk had come out of the mountains, although they still had meat to eat, it was really painful for them to suddenly turn from braised meat into minced meat. This fellow. Now that the situation was so good, why did they still maintain the price of 99 gold? Idiot. The pirates all criticized. With him doing this, it's hard for us to do business. Someone said gloomily. These pirates maintained the same price. It looked like they were advancing and retreating together, but in reality, they weren't colluding with each other. Initially, everyone played the low price card. If one lowered the price, the other wouldn't have any business if they didn't lower the price. So, everyone tried their best to lower the price. Then, during the era of prosperity, some people tried to increase the price, but found that there was still no shortage of students. This was a way to earn more money, so the others were naturally more enthusiastic about it. So, you add me, everyone add me, everyone add me, 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 add me. There's no other way. We have to lower the price. One of them was dejected. He had received 4 players in half a day. Although each of them was willing to pay 200, he only earned 800 gold after teaching 4 people for half a day. This efficiency was enough to make anyone laugh to death. But after experiencing the recent prosperity, this fellow felt that it wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Perhaps if he lowered the price to 99 gold, he would earn more with a few more students. Don't panic. Another person waved his hand. This Qianli drunk, I think he still doesn't understand the situation. Does he think this business can be sustained? Just look at the few of us. After learning how to level up, we haven't done much training yet. Aren't we immediately trying to earn money? There will only be more and more players like us. When the time comes, the competition will become more and more intense. This business will become useless sooner or later. If we want to earn money, we have to hurry up and take all the profits. At this time, let alone 200, even if we raise the price to 300 or 400, will the players not learn? This Qianli drunk is really muddle-headed. He's still insisting on 99. Isn't he causing trouble for us? Let's go and talk to him. The person said as he led the way. In the end, the people behind him didn't move. The person turned around and looked at the few of them suspiciously. They looked at each other and one of them said, "Do you understand the situation? That person is Qianli drunk. You want to negotiate with him? Talk with your mouth or with a knife?" The person smiled slightly. What's there to be afraid of? Isn't he doing this business for money? I'll analyze the pros and cons for him. It's also beneficial for him. I'm also helping him earn more. What am I afraid of? Everyone felt that it made sense. They nodded. Let's go. But there was still one person who hesitated. I still have 3 waiting to learn. 3 my ass. Once we're done, there will be a huge queue of players waiting for you to teach them. Let them wait first. The previous person was arrogant. It was obvious that he had a deep understanding of the resources in his hands. 9,527 stones. The players stood orderly on the left and right. There was an aisle in the middle. It was a special area to attract small monsters. Everyone was very harmonious and didn't occupy this aisle. When the pirates arrived, Sword Ghoul and the rest were busy collecting money elsewhere. There were simply too many people, and the 3 of them had no idea what was going on. They reckoned that there were countless people who had slipped through the net and entered the pile without paying. However, the 3 of them couldn't care less about that. Seeing that a few more people came over and went straight into the crowd, the 3 of them didn't bother to go over and greet them. The pirates went straight in along the channel to attract monsters. The surrounding players frowned when they saw such unruly behavior, but they didn't say anything for a while. When they came to the front, they looked up at 100 Generations Statecraft, who was teaching at the front of 9527. Without saying anything, they climbed up the stone. After all, they had to communicate this in private. If they yelled in front of so many players who were learning, they would definitely be skinned. When they climbed up, the crowd burst into thunderous applause. 3 people were so scared that they slid back to the ground from the stone. The crowd was talking. "That's amazing. There are so many teachers. It's indeed cheap and abundant." When the players saw the feat of climbing up as soon as they came over, they associated them with Gu Fei and 100 Generations Statecraft, who had climbed up the huge stone as soon as they arrived. They regarded them as teachers who had come to support them. Of course, the pirates didn't understand what was going on. When they turned around, they saw the ardent blessings and expectations in the eyes of the majority of players. They were puzzled. What they were about to do should be hated by them. What were they happy about? With a head full of questions, the pirates finally climbed to 9527 stone one after another. On 9527 stone, 100 Generations Statecraft was teaching seriously. The Han family young master was holding a bottle of wine in his hand and sitting 2 meters behind him, looking very relaxed. A few steps behind them, they saw a black-robed mage lying on the ground without a care for his image. The Han family young master focused most of his attention on the wine at this time and didn't pay much attention to the situation under the stone. He only saw it when the pirates reached the top. 100 Generations Statecraft had seen it long ago, but he waited for them to climb to the top before he asked, "What are you doing up here? Can't you see clearly down there?" The leader smiled slightly. "No, we're not here to learn. We have something to discuss with you." "What is it?" asked the Han family young master. Seeing that the Han family young master had answered, 100 Generations Statecraft ignored him and continued to teach seriously. "May I ask which one of you is Drunk Chenli?" asked the man, but his eyes were already locked on Gu Fei, who was on the ground. Everybody knew that Drunk Chenli was a mage, but 100 Generations Statecraft and the Han family young master were obviously fighters and priests. Gu Fei had already raised his head to look at them while they were talking. When he heard that they were here for him, he quickly put away his messy posture and stood up obediently. "I am. Why are you looking for me?" The other party could sense Gu Fei's respect for them, so they were very happy. Once again, the leader of the group spoke. Hee, it's a joke. We're teaching this thing over there." This person pointed at the far end of the wilderness, and then pointed at the thing that Master of Classics was gesturing with. The word "thing" made Gu Fei very unhappy. Although this way of fighting wasn't Kung Fu, it was still a summary of Kung Fu knowledge. Otherwise, ordinary players wouldn't have discovered it. Now that someone casually called it a thing, Gu Fei was very unhappy. What's the matter? Apart from that, Gu Fei didn't really care that these guys would use it to make money after learning it. "It's like this. You're still setting the price at 99 gold coins, right?" asked the man. "That's right." The man smiled honestly. "Actually, why do you have to do this? Right now, this way of fighting monsters is still in the hands of a few people, so it's definitely a seller's market. Over on our side, the demand still exceeds the supply when the price reaches 200 gold coins. However, you're still keeping the price at 99 gold coins? Actually, if we raise the price to 200, 300, or even 400 gold coins, we'll still make money. But this situation probably won't last long, so we should really hurry up. Brother, there are so many people here. I think there are at least 3,000 to 5,000, right? Think about it, if one person isn't 99 gold coins but 299, how many would that be?" As the man described it, he gulped as well. He was horrified by the number he calculated. A few thousand people. Currently, his business hadn't reached such a scale. Don't think that he was the leader of these pirate merchants. In fact, the area he operated in was quite bad, incomparable to the 9,527 stones here. Before Gu Fei could reply, The Han family young master floated over like a ghost and patted the man's shoulder. "Brother, you're really good with words." The man had noticed the Han family young master's flirtatious face when he came up. Now that he was up close, if it wasn't for the pure manly voice, he wouldn't have believed that this was a man. After calming himself down, he said, "Sorry for the ridicule. However, do you guys know where this method came from?" asked the Han family young master. The man paused for a moment before replying, "As far as we know, it was Brother Qianli who first started teaching this method here yesterday, right? He didn't teach it, he developed it." "This method was completely developed by Qianli when he was drunk," said the Han family young master. The encyclopedic scholar turned his head. "The two most commonly used methods were developed by me." Awkward silence. The encyclopedic scholar coughed and went back to teaching. The Han family young master acted as if he didn't hear the interlude and continued. "So, Qianli forgot to say, all rights reserved, violators will be prosecuted," when he was drunk. As a result, you guys plagiarized it and used it to make money. It's already good enough that we didn't pursue it with you guys. But now, a bunch of pirates like you actually came to question the price of our original copies. To be honest, I personally don't agree with your way of doing things. "For you, I'm a seller of original copies," replied the Han family young master with a smile. The man snorted. "It's true that it was developed by Qianli when he was drunk, but is it very complicated? Is it very technical? Isn't it just taking advantage of the mob's attack patterns and matching them with a few attack patterns? It's just a method to beat mobs, and you want the publishing rights? Have you played online games before? His method of beating mobs is the original version, but we're considered pirates?" The Han family young master spread his hands and turned to Gu Fei. "I'll leave it to you." Then he stepped aside. The guy immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He was a little impulsive after being looked down upon by the Han family young master as a pirate and not qualified to earn money. He forgot that they were facing the scariest killer in the game. The Han family young masters, "I'll leave it to you," made them feel that they didn't have long to live. However, they didn't expect that Gu Fei didn't care about them at all. Seeing that he seemed to have said what he wanted to say, he nodded and said, "If there's nothing else, let's go." Seeing that there was no room for negotiation, they didn't dare to be too stubborn after being drunk with Qianli. They could only jump off the 95-27 stone. The Han family young master was shocked. "Are you kidding me? They said that your kung fu doesn't have any technical content. What kind of kung fu is this? It's just beating a few robot mobs, there's no technical content to it." Gu Fei said, "Fuck, you bunch of kung fu kids, I really don't understand your thoughts." The Han family young master cursed. Gu Fei smiled bitterly. "I've painstakingly learned these things for 20 years, but I can only do this in such a crappy game to support my family. With such a tragedy happening, do I still have the energy to be angry? It's not a tragedy, I think it's pretty good. How many people are there today?" The 100 Generations classic suddenly turned around with a look of longing. Listen to his resolve. "What are you complaining about? Do you still want to maintain world peace?" The Han family young master said. Gu Fei was depressed. The 100 Generations classic was troubled by life. He was happy to be able to use his kung fu to earn his living expenses. As for Gu Fei, relying on kung fu to earn his living expenses was no longer enough for him. He hoped that kung fu could be of great use. Now that he was reduced to killing mobs in the game and developing some efficient leveling method, Gu Fei felt that it was a complete tragedy. This was just like the saying, "Lust comes when one is full and warm." The 100 Generations classic was in the early stage of solving the problem of food and clothing, but Gu Fei had no worries in this aspect. He was pursuing a higher realm of using what he had learned. Originally, both of them were tragedies, but in different places. Now that kung fu was very popular in the parallel world, at least it could earn a lot of money. The 100 Generations classic's tragedy was solved, but Gu Fei's tragedy continued. Those guys didn't dare to act rashly in front of Qianli. After being despised, they left in a sorry state. After walking far away, they turned around and gave him the middle finger. "What do we do now?" one of them asked. "Damn it, they'll be struck by lightning. Since it's like this, we'll fight to the death. They won't have it easy either. I'm going to set the price at 80 gold coins. You guys decide. The leader said. Does that so? I think I'll just lower it to 99 gold coins. Another person said. You're afraid that Qinli will come looking for trouble when he's drunk, right? The leader asked. That person didn't answer. In fact, he was indeed worried. Now that he shouted a price lower than 99 gold coins, it was equivalent to challenging Qinli. Who would dare to offend the number one assassin? I'll just do it. If he wants to come, then let him. I've earned enough money anyway. Even if I drop a level, it's not a waste. The leader had given up. The key was that he had confidently led the group to convince Thousand Miles Drunk. In the end, before Thousand Miles Drunk could even say a word, he had been ridiculed by a fellow who looked like a man but didn't look like a woman. He really couldn't take this lying down, so he immediately thought of a way to lower the price and compete. Even if he couldn't kill them, he could still disgust them. And I'll lower the price too. Let's get as much as we can. To be honest, I don't think we can compete with him even if we bid 99 gold coins. Look at their territory. They can teach almost 2,000 people at once. What about us? I'm afraid we can't even teach 1,000 people at once. Another person said. Then I'll lower too. What's there to be afraid of? Another person thought it through. In the end, after the negotiation, only one person was still hesitating. The others ignored him. After discussing for a while, they felt that the price should be higher. They might as well lower it to 50 gold coins and ruthlessly rob him. Other things could be discussed later. The spring breeze of 50 gold coins immediately began to pounce on the wilderness. The majority of players didn't care about the original or pirated version. As long as it was cheap, it was good. The golden age of 9,527 began to fade. Hearing the appearance of 50 gold coins, apart from those who paid, the rest of the people fled. Well done. Well done. When Sword Ghoul and the other two saw that no one was coming, they happily crawled back to the 9527 rock to rest. Good. For the first time in their lives, they wanted to vomit after receiving so much money. What kind of feeling was this? Han family young master also heard the news that the other side had begun to solicit customers at a low price again. He continued to laugh coldly. Those guys are really useless. They can't even see through our cards. The ones who don't understand the situation are actually them, right? Master Qianli, how's the development of the White Mill? Their playstyle is mature. However, I think our manpower is a problem. Gu Fei said. Chapter 605. There's a problem with manpower. The young master of the Han clan nodded and looked at the crowd. Are there any trustworthy friends that I can pull along? Sword Demon and the others looked at each other. In the end, it was Sword Demon who said, "This business is indeed profitable. It's easy to find people to help, but the trouble is that it's too profitable. Look at this afternoon. If it weren't for those guys playing the low price card again, when would we have been so busy? To be honest, I don't want to spend all my time on making money." Yeah, making money isn't the main pleasure of our game. The other two who were reluctant to accept money also shouted. No, it's very interesting. Bai Shi Jingluan, who disagreed, said. Those who practice martial arts, are you going to the ditch over there? Don't talk to us. Han family young master waved his hand. Unscathed in battle gave Han family young master a look, which meant that if you don't care about your life, don't drag us down with you. Yutian Shenming was already happily making do with Gu Fei. Qianli, what do you think? I don't need money. Gu Fei's realm was higher than those three. They only dared to say that they didn't want to spend all their time on this, but Gu Fei didn't need anything. Why are you so enthusiastic if you don't need it? Everyone was puzzled. Gu Fei let out a long breath. Where should he start? After thinking for a while, he said, I'm too lazy to say it. Do you need my sword to say it? I think what Sword Demon said makes sense. We're not here to make money. The topic changed too quickly, as if no one had spoken to Gu Fei. Sword Demon nodded seriously and waved at Gu Fei at the same time. I'll pay you back later. He could finally get rid of the huge burden that had been weighing on him for a long time. Although they hadn't agreed on how to split the money, Sword Demon, as a money collector, had a clear idea of the afternoon's income. He believed that no matter what the ratio was, as long as he existed, his share would be enough to pay off the debt. Since everyone has such high awareness and doesn't want to measure your value with money, why don't we stop here? Han Family Young Master said. Don't. Yutian Shenming and Enscathed in Battle said in unison. Gu Fei didn't care and didn't say a word. Sword Demon was familiar with Han Family Young Master's character, so it would be a failure if he got anxious after hearing this. 100 Sure Jingluan believed it completely, but he wasn't anxious at all. He thought deeply. You don't want to do it anymore? That's troublesome. I have to find someone else to help me. I wonder if brother you still want to do it? 100 Sure Jingluan muttered. It seemed like he was going to contact a new partner soon. This made Han Family Young Master's expression change a little. It was troublesome that the resources weren't completely in his hands. The other party didn't treat him like a noob at all. On the other hand, Zhan Wushang and Imperial Divine Ming had already rushed to Bai Jingluan's side, one on the left and one on the right. Brother 100 Sure, don't listen to that guy's crazy words, Unscathed in Battle said. Yes, yes, yes. Imperial Sky Shenming nodded repeatedly. At this crucial moment, the two of them dared to do something as dangerous as despising the young master of the Han clan. Look, it's not that we don't want to do it. The key is that we usually work hard all day. We mainly come to the game to relax and have some fun. As for money, we just need to earn some pocket money. It's as if we work hard. Isn't it not worth it? That's right. Yutian Shenming echoed. Shameless. Even a kind person like Sword Demon couldn't help but use his middle fingers to look down on them. Even these two fellows who spent the entire day immersed in the game dared to say that a day of work was very tiring, especially Imperial God Ming, who was a little bigger than a fart. Who knew if he was even an adult? 100 Sure Jingluan understood what they meant. They meant that they mainly played, and money was just an auxiliary. Therefore, it was okay to treat money as a part-time job. However, the business they were starting now was really profitable. Once they got busy, it would take up all their time. That was why they had so many concerns. In the end, the most reliable person was still Sword Demon. After thinking about the problem seriously, he said, if you want to find a long-term and stable partner for this business, I think a studio is the best choice. A studio? Han Family Young Master smiled. That's indeed an excellent choice. However, I'm sorry to say that if it's a collaboration with a studio, they only need Qianli and BAI. What can you bunch of trash do? Collect money? Run errands? Deliver letters? As long as you can do it, there are plenty of them in the studio. Why would they give you the opportunity to make money? We can negotiate from the beginning. Yutian Shenming said. Oh, then we'll need Qianli and Bai Shi to negotiate. The general idea is that the two of us want to sell ourselves to you as coolies. Everyone can work together to make money, but there's a condition. You have to be responsible for taking care of these pieces of trash. Fuck, don't you have any shame? Han Family Young Master cursed. Sword Demon, what kind of lousy idea is this? Yutian Shenming and Enscathed in Battle quickly betrayed him. After being described by Han Family Young Master like this, Sword Demon also felt that it was very unbearable. The #1 expert in online games would really become a person who relied on nepotism to make a living. It was really unbearable. Cooperation with a studio is not feasible. It's impossible to cooperate with the studio. Apart from the reasons mentioned above, the studio is a group with scale, resources, organization, and discipline. If we cooperate with them, the initiative will be in their hands. Even if Qianli and Bai Shi have the core technology in their hands, the act of burning the bridge after crossing the river is specially aimed at this kind of technical core talent that they rely on very much in the early stage. Therefore, it's really not a good idea to cooperate with the studio. In the end, the young master of the Han family analyzed seriously. Then what do you think is the best way? Yutian Shenming asked. Very simple, set up your own studio. Han family young master said. The three of them looked at each other in disdain. A studio wasn't for the game at all. It was a group that only wanted to earn money in the game. Sword Demon and the others would never do such a thing. Please, can't everyone use their brains a little more? If we set up a studio, then we are the bosses. Which boss of a studio would personally come out to farm gold? Han Family Young Master said. There are, for example, Almond Studio. Can you shut up? Han Family Young Master glared fiercely at Yutian Shenming, who raised a negative example. Yutian Shenming obediently shut up. In fact, what he said was also an exception. This world was full of strange things. It wasn't easy to say that some big bosses didn't have a hobby of being drivers or security guards, but it was absolutely correct to say that most bosses wouldn't do the lowest level of work. So, Han Family Young Master continued to explain his plan. I'll pull out your names and set up a studio. I think it should have some appeal in the online gaming world, right? Then, I'll take in some professional players and specialize in this business. Oh my god, I can't help but praise this wonderful idea. Hey! Gu Fei called out to the four people who had completely forgotten about him and by Shi Jingluan. The four looked over and heard Gu Fei say in a relaxed manner, "No need to go through so much trouble. I've discussed with Bai Shi, and the two of us will just find a studio to cooperate with." Unscathed in battle, and Yutian Shenming screamed and immediately rushed over to denounce Gu Fei for being disloyal. Sword Demon was calm again. He didn't believe that Gu Fei would be so disloyal. Han Family Young Master was clenching his teeth. He also knew that Gu Fei would not be disloyal, but when he was praising his idea, he threw out these words, regardless of whether it was true or not. Be serious. Gu Fei was serious. I think the idea of a studio is good. What do you think, Bai Shi? Very good. Bai Shi Jingluan nodded. You can bring those students of yours to help. Gu Fei said. Them? They've already graduated. They're all targeted training. After the new year, they'll take the certificate and go to work where they need to, Bai Shi Jingluan said. Really? Your school will graduate now? Yeah, what about you guys? My school is a proper national public school. It graduates in the summer, Gu Fei said. Then, are you a proper teacher? Do you enjoy the civil servant treatment? It's all right. Then you can go out and teach classes or be a private tutor. It's very profitable. I'm a big brother who teaches sports. Gu Fei wiped his sweat. Oh, I forgot. Hey, is there anyone who admires Kung Fu who wants to ask you to teach them? Bai Shi Jingluan was still asking. No, not at all. This was a sad thing for Gu Fei. It was a tragedy to mention Kung Fu in school. It's a pity. If there's a tutor in this area, I'll introduce them to him, Bai Shi Jingluan said. Of course. You know, I don't lack this bit of money. If there's a chance, I'll definitely introduce you, Gu Fei said. Thank you. Bai Shi Jingluan was grateful. You too, are you done chatting? The four fellows' faces darkened. Cough, the studio's idea is not bad. What do you think, Bai Shi? Gu Fei said. Very good. Actually, don't your students play games? They can bring them to help out and earn some money. Bai Shi Jingluan said. My students are still underage. Gu Fei was speechless. Then it's good to earn some pocket money. Bai Shi Jingluan said. That's not good. Students should focus on their studies. What's the point of playing games? Gu Fei said. That's true. Let's talk about my students. Are you two done? The four of them roared in unison. All right. We'll take care of the studio's matters. Remember to come back to teach when the time comes, Han Family Young Master said. Players who join the studio are standard professional gamers who play games to earn money, right? Gu Fei asked. Sometimes they don't even count as players. They just treat it as a job. There's actually no difference from other professions, Sword Demon said. Then does Jianan Yu and the others count? Gu Fei suddenly asked. The others were startled. Han Family Young Master mocked. What? Great hero, are you still thinking of practicing medicine to save the world? I think it's really not easy for them to earn some money from equipment drops, Gu Fei said. It's not easy, it's all because of you. Everyone said silently. If they're willing to join, I don't mind. Those fellows are quite skilled, and they happen to include 6 professions. They're excellent demonstration teachers, Han family young master said. Hey, they're enemies. Aren't you afraid they'll do something bad? Yutian Shenming said in shock. There's someone who can do something bad under my eyes? Han family young master asked. Yutian Shenming was speechless and said gloomily, anyway, how can we trust them? To be honest, it's more difficult to get them to trust us now, Han family young master said. I'll go find them, Gu Fei nodded. Don't force yourself. Yutian Shenming shouted. Kids always had a clear line between love and hate. Okay. Gu Fei responded and jumped off the boulder. He walked towards White Stone City while sending a message to Jianan Yu, where? As usual, there was no response. This was all within his expectations. Gu Fei continued, there's a super profitable deal. Are you interested? When Jianan Yu received Gu Fei's message, he felt very conflicted. He hadn't seen Gu Fei for many days and hadn't received any news from Gu Fei. Moreover, there was such an unexpected message this time. It made his feelings even more complicated. Jianan Yu was someone who played for money. He couldn't bear to not reply to a message like this. He wouldn't die if he replied a few times anyway, so he immediately replied, what kind of business is it? Huh? You don't know about the big business I've been doing recently? Gu Fei was also surprised. He thought that with Jianan Yu's brain, he would definitely think of the wilderness camp's booming teaching career. Jianan Yu didn't seem like someone who didn't know about the news. Who would have thought that Jianan Yu would really reply, I don't know. Wilderness camp. Bonfire patrol. Efficient leveling method. Gu Fei sent 3 keywords in a row. Jianan Yu replied with 4 words, what do you mean? What have you been busy with recently? Gu Fei asked. Jianan Yu actually didn't know about such a big thing. Gu Fei thought that this person might not be in White Stone City anymore. This message didn't get a reply for a long time. After a while, Gu Fei was about to send another message. Suddenly, Jianan Yu replied, why are you looking for me? Do you understand the meaning of the 3 words I just said? I understand. Jianan Yu was actually asking about it at the last minute, but he wasn't a rookie. He didn't need to go to the field to estimate how much profit there was in this matter. We're preparing to set up a studio to do this business. We need manpower, Gu Fei said. Then why are you looking for me? This was a question that Jianan Yu had to ask. If it's a movie, the line would be like this. Jianan Yu, I want to be a good person. Why don't you give me a chance? Gu Fei, I'll give you a chance, Gu Fei replied. Gu Fei? I'm sorry, this is my real name, please block it. Gu Fei wiped his sweat. He didn't have a deep understanding of his code name Qianli Drunk. When others called it, he would respond, but when he thought about it, he would think that he was Gu Fei. This is a great opportunity. If I were you, I would definitely risk my life to give it a try. Gu Fei said, why risk my life? Jianan Yu asked. Because there's a very simple way to test the truth of my words. Just stand in front of me in real life. If I'm lying, I'll definitely hack you to death on the spot. If I'm telling the truth, then you'll naturally survive. Gu Fei said. Jianan Yu sweated profusely. You're the one who came up with the idea. If you have other schemes, then of course you won't hack me to death to lure me. Other than being hacked to death by me, what other tragic end can you have? Gu Fei said. Jianan Yu thought about it again and again. Will the cooperation bring all my brothers? Of course. Gu Fei said. So when you meet me, you won't hack me to death. When I bring everyone, you'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Jianan Yu asked. Gu Fei went crazy. I say, can't you be a bit more honest? Haven't you done too many bad things? Jianan Yu began to think again. Gu Fei sighed. Indeed, it was as the Han family young master had said. Getting Jianan Yu to trust them was actually more difficult than getting them to trust Jianan Yu. All right, I'll meet with you first. Jianan Yu finally clenched his teeth and made a decision. Where are you? Gu Fei also let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that his persuasion had taken effect. Jianan Yu had already slightly loosened up. The auction house. Jian Nanyu said. You can't be? Gu Fei was startled. If it was the auction house. Gu Fei looked at the time, including the date. Today was the last day of the staff collection day, and there were only 40 minutes left until the staff collection day. Jian Nanyu was speechless because Gu Fei's guess was right. They were still guarding their ideal staff. Gu Fei ran all the way from outside the city to the auction house. At this time, there were only 8 minutes left. Where are you? Gu Fei sent a message. 7 people came out from the corner of the street near the auction house. It was all of Jian Nanyu's group of 7. The 7 of them walked towards Gu Fei and surrounded him. Ambush? Gu Fei didn't think so. If it was an ambush, directly attacking was the most effective. It was too unprofessional to have such a rhythmic pace. Since you suggested using this method to experiment, we might as well try a bit bigger. Right now, all 7 of us are here. If you want to make a move, then hurry up. Jian Nanyu said. Gu Fei looked at the 7 of them. He didn't make a move and only said one sentence. You've lost weight. Immediately, 4 of the 7 of them choked. Gu Fei looked at Jian Nanyu's unshaven and haggard face. You've been waiting for your ideal staff? Jian Nanyu nodded. You haven't shown yourself? Gu Fei was also surprised. Jian Nanyu nodded again. Forget it. There's more money waiting for you to earn, Gu Fei said. At this point, the 7 of them believed most of Gu Fei's words. However, they still had one last bit of stubbornness. We won't make a move, but we must see who this guy is. The 7 of them gritted their teeth. That's right. Who is this guy? Even Gu Fei felt that this was too abnormal. He looked at the time again. 5 minutes left. Let's go in. Flaming Cloak suggested. They were still outside the auction house. They stood in a similar position to monitor from a distance. Let's go in. Gu Fei waved his hand and went in first. The 7 of them followed behind him. It was like a dream. Never in their wildest dreams had they imagined that they would one day be able to follow 1,000 miles drunk in unison. The delivery area in the auction house was still as orderly as before. The players took turns to collect their money and items. Gu Fei looked at the time again. 4 minutes. Jian Nanyu and the others' eyes were about to bleed. They stared at everyone in the team, especially the cleric. What kind of person would be so unkind as to leave this suspense until after this? Chapter 606. 4 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Jian Nanyu and the rest did not know the exact time. At this time, they were still staring at the team. After Gu Fei looked at the time, he confirmed that the auction had completely come to an end. If Jian Nanyu and the rest's surveillance was correct, this ideal staff was actually bought by someone but no one picked it up. Gu Fei looked at the 7 of them in confusion. The 7 of them noticed Gu Fei's gaze and began to be surprised. It's over? Jian Nanyu asked. Gu Fei nodded. How could it be? 6 of the 7 people were speechless. Gu Fei didn't understand either, so he could only shrug his shoulders. The 7 of them looked at each other. During this period of time, they had devoted all their energy to this ideal staff, but such an ending was too tragic. It was like playing mahjong for an entire afternoon. The winner would naturally be elated, while the loser would feel depressed. He might even make up his mind to take revenge. The person who didn't lose or win was probably the one with the least sense of existence and the easiest to feel bored. Our surveillance has also been interrupted several times. Jian Nan reflected on himself. It was unbelievable that they didn't take the staff after buying it. Therefore, Jian Nanyu believed that something must have gone wrong. Or the other party has a way to take it away under our noses. Glu guessed. Jian Nanyu shook his head blankly. He really couldn't make up his mind. After a long period of effort, they didn't even make a splash. This kind of ending could sometimes be fatal. Although Gu Fei didn't agree with their behavior, he felt quite sympathetic when he saw their dazed looks. Gu Fei realized that this group of people might be the same as Shi Xiaotian. Although they didn't do anything clean, at least their persistence and seriousness were worthy of recognition. Don't worry about this anymore. We're going to set up a studio. Join us. You won't have to suffer from this anymore. This time, Gu Fei officially sent out an invitation. His tone was quite sincere. Thank you. Jian Nanyu nodded on behalf of the 7 of them. However, we still have some things to do. You still want to continue? Gu Fei was a little dissatisfied. We took their money, but we didn't get it done. We need to give them an explanation. Jian Nanyu said. The person who bought the staff is Silver Moon, right? Gu Fei asked. They had already guessed this. Now that things had come to this, Jian Nanyu did not hide anything. What are you going to do? Gu Fei asked. According to our rules, if the mission is not completed, we will return double the deposit. Jian Nan sighed. Why do you care about that unkind fellow? Keep the money as pocket money. Gu Fei said. Jian Nan and the others looked at Gu Fei in astonishment, thinking that this fellow was actually so dishonest. In fact, this was because the two sides had different thoughts and standpoints. Jian Nan and the others considered this matter from the perspective of business. Integrity was a very important indicator in their line of work. Without integrity, how could they convince others to pay a deposit and let them do things without any restrictions? Therefore, even though they knew that Silver Moon was trash, even though they hated him and even thought of ambushing him to vent their anger, if the mission was not completed, they would have to pay double the amount. This was already a deep-rooted idea that Jian Nan and the others had formed in the process of doing business. They did not give special treatment just because the other party was Silver Moon. Ahem. That's not good. Although Gu Fei made such a suggestion, the 7 of them were not used to it. Didn't you guys plan to ambush Silver Moon a few days ago? What's going on? Gu Fei had thought about this question before, but he could not figure it out. Now that his relationship with Jian Nanyu was getting closer, he finally had the chance to ask directly. Ahem. Nothing much. Jian Nanyu looked embarrassed. The other 6 were also a little embarrassed. Ambushing Silver Moon was because they could not deal with Gu Fei, so they were venting their anger. They were too embarrassed to ask about it. Did you kill him? Gu Fei asked again. No, we more or less kept an eye on him for a day, but we did not find his whereabouts, Glu said. What a pity. Gu Fei felt regretful. After feeling regretful, he became spirited again. But now that you want to pay, do you need to ask him out to meet you? Usually, if the mission is not completed, we will ask the client out to apologize and pay in person, Jian Nanyu said. Yes, just like with Strange Pupil. Gu Fei nodded. The 7 of them lowered their heads in embarrassment. They wondered if Gu Fei had deliberately brought this up to embarrass them. However, when they saw Gu Fei's expression was normal, as if he was talking to a normal person, they could not tell what he was thinking. The 7 of them thought that they might have been too pessimistic, so they calmed down one by one. So you're not going to do this to Silver Moon? Gu Fei asked. Yes. I can't be bothered to meet that guy. I'll just write him a letter and send the money, Jian Nanyu said. Why don't we use this opportunity to meet him and take him down? Gu Fei said. The 7 of them did not mind this suggestion, especially when Horini was urging them. He had always been the one being attacked by Qianli when he was drunk. Now he wanted to experience what it would be like to attack someone with Qianli when he was drunk. Okay, Glu, contact Silverman. I've already deleted him. Now that I've taken the initiative to contact him, he might be suspicious. Jian Nanyu was still very meticulous. Gu Fei sighed at the side. Kennen Yoshi's gaming skills were considered top-notch among normal gamers. He was also good at scheming and plotting. He was indeed a talent. Brother, we failed the ideal magic staff quest. I'm sorry. Let's meet up when you have time. I'll pay you back double the deposit. Glu sent this message as usual. Is that so? Forget about meeting up. Just send me the money. There's no need for double. What kind of relationship do we have? If it's not convenient for you guys, you can take the deposit as pocket money. Just treat it as my advance payment. We'll definitely have a chance to work together in the future. Ha. Silver Moon laughed, maintaining his usual slyness. Although what was happening was exactly what he had hoped for, in the end he didn't demand the compensation of 4,000 gold coins as he wanted. That wasn't what he needed right now. This time, Glu was greatly surprised. He quickly told Jian Nan and the others about it. This guy. Jian Nanyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Silver Moon was scum, but he was scum to a terrifying degree. At the very least, he didn't care about the loss of a few thousand gold. This meant that his vision was quite high. Right now, he wanted to sell Jian Nanyu and the others a favor and repair their relationship. The advance payment was even more brilliant. To put it in a more disgusting way, he wanted to create some bonds between the two parties. If he just waived the double, then Jian Nanyu and the others might only remember his kindness for a while. However, with the 2,000 gold being given out in such a way, Jian Nanyu and the others would always remember his kindness when they needed it. What was even more shameless was that this guy said it was an advance payment in a half-joking tone. So whether this money was given for free or not, he still had the initiative. In the end, Silver Moon didn't waste a single cent, but Jian Nanyu and the others remembered his kindness. He was really the best of the scum. If it was a normal time, Silver Moon's move might have succeeded. Unfortunately, he was already famous for being a scum. Moreover, Jian Nanyu wasn't someone easy to deal with. At this moment, he said to Glue with a dark expression, "Return the money to him immediately. Pay him double. I really don't want to deal with him anymore." At the same time, he turned to Gu Fei and said, "Silver Moon must be very wary of his current situation. I don't think he'll agree to meet up with us." Gu Fei nodded. "That's true, then we'll talk about it in the future." "What about now?" Jian Nanyu asked. "Are you guys free?" Gu Fei asked. "Whenever you pass by the mailbox, just throw the money at Silver Moon." Jian Nanyu said, "Passing by, casually, and throw." His attitude toward Silver Moon was extremely contemptuous. "Then come with me to the wilderness camp now. Let's discuss it together," Gu Fei said. "Okay." Jian Nanyu nodded. The 7 of them followed Gu Fei out of the auction house and walked out of the city. At this time, their trust in Gu Fei couldn't be said to have reached 100%. A few of them privately chatted with Jian Nanyu to analyze if Gu Fei had any ulterior motives. At this time, Jian Nanyu was too lazy to think anymore. He had been working hard for so long, and he really wanted to have a relaxing time. He casually dealt with the few people and looked at Gu Fei, who was leading the way. He was also quite perturbed. Gu Fei had already informed the people from Child Elite Group that he had successfully convinced Jian Nanyu and the others to join him. Not bad. Han Family Young Master said casually. Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle were still a bit unhappy. Yutian Shenming had the temper of a child, and Unscathed in Battle was because Jian Nanyu was originally above him in the warrior rankings. Although he had come down, Unscathed in Battle still had some feelings for him. Sword Demon didn't say anything, but Brother Yu was very happy. He and Jian Nanyu were originally friends, and this situation was quite awkward. Now that there was a possibility of them getting back together, Brother Yu was the one who supported it the most. The bustling scene of the wilderness camp made Jian Nanyu and the others dumbfounded. These guys had almost become otakus in the auction house. They didn't even know such a big thing had happened in Whitestone City. After walking for a while and looking at the situation around him, Jian Nanyu gradually frowned. The situation seems quite complicated. That's right. Look, that's 9,527 stone. That's our place. The others were all learned from us. They started teaching people to earn money like us, and their prices were even lower than ours. When I left, we didn't have any business there, but it looks like it's getting better now. Gu Fei looked at 9,527 stone, and he could see that there were still some players gathered there. I'm not talking about that. Jian Nanyu shook his head and said, "Look, the population of the wilderness camp has exploded. There are definitely more players than monsters. I can see that many of the players are still unfamiliar with the way they fight monsters. Moreover, a considerable number of them are still learning. There are hundreds of them sharing a single monster, so the balance is barely maintained. However, as more players come to learn, more players will learn, and the efficiency of fighting monsters will be reflected. Think about it, what kind of scene will this place be? Kill stealing? Gu Fei said. That's right, and it will be a very intense kill stealing. Jian Nanyu said, Let me give you an example. Right now, the wilderness camp is equivalent to a newly opened double EXP leveling area, so in theory, players from all over the world will come here to fight. It seems very troublesome. Gu Fei muttered. If this continued, the wilderness camp would obviously become a super PK paradise that far surpassed Moonlit Night City. If we don't want this to happen, we have to control the speed at which we develop new monsters. It's like constantly opening up new double and triple leveling areas. If we push them all out at once, we won't be able to guarantee our benefits. However, if we push it once every 3 days or once every few days, that won't be good. We should pay attention to the number of people in the leveling area. That's the most important indicator. When Gu Fei heard this, it was extremely similar to the plans that the Han family young master had proposed, so he asked, "How many people do you think is good?" "I can't say for now. I have to calculate and see," Jin and Yu said. It seemed that there was still a gap. Gu Fei, the Han family young master, had directly said that there would be 5 times the number of people, although he didn't know how he had estimated it. As they spoke, they had already arrived at the 9,527 stone. Jian Nan Yu and the others' hearts were at their peak. If Gu Fei and the others had any conspiracy, they should be carrying it out now, right? At this moment, the teacher on the 9527 stone wasn't 100 Lives Jingluan, but Brother Yu. He was teaching the agility long weapon. Compared to Gu Fei and 100 Lives Jingluan, his skills were slightly immature, but he was still very skilled. Those fake teachers were basically at this level, and some of them weren't even as good as Brother Yu. When he saw Jian Nan Yu and the others, Brother Yu smiled and greeted them in a friendly manner. However, the Han family young master and the others didn't pay much attention to him. It wasn't considered hatred. These self-proclaimed experts had always been arrogant. Even Yu Tian Shenming didn't take Gu Fei seriously back then. The others only treated him as a person because of the Sword Demon's strong recommendation. At this moment, facing a defeated opponent like Jian Nan Yu, why would these guys come over and greet him politely? There wasn't a single person here who was kind. On the other hand, 100 Lives Jingluan immediately jumped down from the stone when he saw them. When Jian Nan Yu and the others saw 100 Lives Jingluan, their hearts skipped a beat. 100 Lives Jingluan walked over and said, "Does the deal with killing Sword Nan Yu still count?" When the 7 of them heard that, they immediately turned around and wanted to run. However, they heard Gu Fei say angrily, "What do you mean count? I don't count anymore." The 7 of them had just turned around and hadn't taken a step when they heard Gu Fei's words. All of them turned around in bewilderment. However, they saw 100 Lives Jingluan saying with a worried expression, "This?" The employer didn't say anything. "Do you have the final say?" Jian Nan Yu and the others asked anxiously, "Who's the employer?" 100 Lives Jingluan didn't say anything out of professional ethics. However, Gu Fei wasn't in this profession and had no morals. He immediately said, "Waist slimming dance." Oh. Jian Nan Yu expressed his understanding. After all, he had stepped on someone's chest and killed them. "TSK, how do I explain it in front of that lady? It's a bit tricky." Gu Fei scratched his head. "I apologize to her and get killed by her again. Is that okay?" Jian Nan Yu asked. Gu Fei was surprised. "Are you willing to do that?" "What's wrong with that?" Jian Nan Yu didn't think much of it. Although they were all experts, Jian Nan Yu and Sword Ghost were fundamentally different. Some of the legendary experts didn't have self-esteem. Jian Nan Yu didn't have it. Or rather, it wasn't that he didn't have it, but Jian Nan Yu didn't think of himself as an expert at all. He didn't care about these things. He just wanted to find the best way to earn money in the game. Robbing required levels, equipment, and skills. Therefore, he became one of the top 5 in the game. He had good equipment and skills. However, what he wanted to do now didn't need these things at all. Therefore, he immediately treated his level as a passing cloud. If you have this attitude, she might not be interested in you. Gu Fei thought about the waist slimming dance he knew. If Jian Nan Yu didn't resist, she might find it boring and disdain to make a move. "You didn't do this on purpose, did you?" Gu Fei suddenly said. Obviously, he realized that Jian Nan Yu was also a very scheming person. You're not very optimistic either. Jian Nanyu wiped his sweat. Alright, I'll call her over. You guys deal with it yourselves. Gu Fei said. Okay. Jian Nanyu nodded. Did Waste Dance say that she was going to deal with us? The other 6 asked. I'm not sure. Gu Fei said. Then let's wait too. The 6 stood beside Jian Nanyu. They looked like they were brothers of the Calabash brothers. Waste Dance. Gu Fei began to shout. Are you still going to attack Jian Nanyu? Of course. Then hurry up and come over. Gu Fei said. Wilderness Camp 9527 stones. You caught him? You're a good brother. Waste Dance was overjoyed. No, we're preparing to cooperate with him, so we prepared to deal with the 2 of you first. Gu Fei was still very honest. Fuck, you sold your character. You've fallen. Waste Dance shouted. Hurry up and come. Gu Fei didn't want to say anything else. Waste Dance was definitely the fastest person in the parallel world. Not long after she sent the message to Gu Fei, her fiery red figure appeared in everyone's sight. Han Family Young Master looked through the binoculars and said, She's here. Jian Nanyu and the other 6 stared at the item in Han Family Young Master's hand. They trembled as they asked, What is that? Han Family Young Master smiled. Binoculars. Then he looked at Glue. It's farther and clearer than Eagle Eye. The 7 of them each spat out a mouthful of blood. Why did their actions seem to be seen by someone but they didn't know? Why were they being followed even though there was no one behind them? Many of the puzzles that had been lingering in their hearts for a long time were finally revealed. It was all because of a binoculars. The 7 of them couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Can there be such a thing in the game? Where did you get it? I borrowed it. Those who smiled continued to smile, and those who spat out blood continued to spit out blood. Waste Dance arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. The 7 of them hurriedly cleaned up their pitiful appearances. They were prepared to die a martyr's death, and their current state was too ugly. However, when Waste Dance came over, she didn't even look at them. Instead, she poked Gu Fei's nose and shouted, Why are you cooperating with them? What kind of shady business is this? Is it fun? Why didn't you inform me first? Chapter 607. Gu Fei took 2 steps back and rubbed his nose. He smiled bitterly and said, It's not something fun. You won't be interested. How do you know? What is it? Slender Waist Dance was still aggressive. Earn money, Gu Fei said. Slender Waist Dance was startled. Indeed, Gu Fei said something that she wasn't interested in. It was true that professional players and studios could earn a lot of money through the game, but this wasn't a very powerful way to earn money. It would be a dream if they could surpass Bill Gates by selling equipment in the game. One had to know that the game itself was a way for another group of people to earn money. It wasn't a technological weapon that could help the people achieve common prosperity earlier. The players in the game earned money faster than they earned money from operating the game. This was too tragic. Therefore, players like Slender Waist Dance, who could spend a lot of money in the game, spent it to have fun. There were definitely more effective ways to make money in life to help her maintain a balance. There was no need for her to waste time making money in the game. Even Sword Demon and the others didn't want to waste time on earning money. Slender Waist Dance, who didn't lack money, obviously didn't need to. When everyone saw that Slender Waist Dance suddenly didn't say anything, they were all envious. They didn't have to worry about money. This was something that many people dreamed of. Everyone was still fantasizing when they saw Slender Waist Dance suddenly turn around and stare angrily at Jian Nanyu. Kid die. Jian Nanyu straightened his chest and faced her calmly. His hands danced as he swiftly took off all his equipment. In the eyes of the players, Jian Nanyu was now like a naked man. What's the meaning of this? Slender Waist Dance was instantly dumbfounded. She rushed over and was about to stab Jian Nanyu when she stopped. She asked, but she looked at Gu Fei, waiting for him to give an explanation. Gu Fei could only smile bitterly. He said that as an apology he won't resist and will let you kill him once. He even took me naked. That's too insincere. Slender Waist Dance roared. Jian Nanyu hurriedly explained, I just want you to kill faster. This was not the first time Sword Demon and the others had seen Azure Blade strip before he died. Yutian Shenming whistled and exposed him. Aren't you afraid of losing your equipment? Southern Azure Sword smiled. Under normal circumstances, I would be afraid. However, today's situation is special. Everyone here is one of us. I don't think we need to worry about equipment dropping. Everyone thought about it and realized that it was true. Jian Nanyu's cooperation with them was a foregone conclusion. Now, even if he really dropped equipment, whoever picked it up would return it to him. Otherwise, how could they work together in the future? That's why I really just want you to kill faster, Jian Nan said to Slender Waist Dance. All right. Slim Waist Dance nodded. You want to die without resisting? Then as you wish. The next time I try to kill you, you will fight back, right? Jian Nan was stunned. Why would there be a next time? Gu Fei smiled bitterly. He had underestimated Slender Waist Dance. He thought that Jian Nan's attitude would make Slender Waist Dance unable to kill him. He did not expect that not only would she kill him, but she would also treat it as if it did not count. Then she would find another opportunity to kill him again. Not only Jian Nan, but his brothers, such as Glue and Flaming Cloak, were also suspicious. That's right. Why do you want to do it again? Danan only killed you once. Slender Waist Dance glared at them. It's none of your business. Shut up. The 6 of them were in tears. Why did all experts have the problem of being arrogant? Were they just passers-by? The 6 of them were prepared to die with Jian Nan, but they finally realized that Slender Waist Dance did not care about them at all. They did not know whether to laugh or cry. Jian Nan also understood what Slender Waist Dance meant. I have to kill you. I won't appreciate it if you act like a coward. Killing you like this doesn't count. You can start over. Jian Nan sighed and said, I'm sincerely apologizing. Slender Waist Dance looked at him in disdain. Isn't it just a game? Why are you apologizing for killing someone? Jian Nan was at his wit's end. He looked at Gu Fei. Gu Fei quickly turned his head to avoid his gaze. However, Jian Nan's reply was as fast as his eyes. What should we do? Do as you see fit, Gu Fei replied. Then, should I put on my equipment and fight her? Jian Nan asked. Whatever. What if I kill her again? Jian Nan asked. You should ask her. Gu Fei replied. Thus, Jian Nan really asked, okay, I'll seriously battle with you again. But what if you are not her match again? Slender Waist Dance felt that the word, again, was extremely harsh. She said angrily, then you have the ability. I will find you again. Everyone thought that Jian Nan was going to go easy on her, but Slender Waist Dance said in advance, Humph, don't let me find out that you went easy on her. Otherwise, this isn't over. Everyone started to sympathize with Jian Nan. At the same time, they had a thought. Women are really hard to please. Jian Nan looked helpless, but he had already put on his equipment again. No one knew what he was planning. The 7 of them had lost a few people because of Gu Fei, but Jian Nan's level remained intact. At this time, he was still at level 40. He took out the mysterious equipment configuration of a sword in his right hand and a shield in his left. Shield in front of him and sword behind the shield. This was his usual trick in PvP. He didn't hold back at this time. Hey, don't fight here. I'm still in class. The interlude caused more than half of the players who were learning from Brother Yu to be distracted. Brother Yu, who was teaching, was depressed. Slender Waist Dance also felt that there was a group of people here. She waved her hand and said, over here. Everyone went to watch the show. Even the players who were in class wanted to go and watch. In the end, Brother Yu said with a dark expression, I'm leaving. I don't care about the supplementary class when I come back. No one dared to leave. This was a learning opportunity that had been bought with money. Everyone could only suppress their curiosity and continue learning. This group of people went to the back of the 9,527 stone. They couldn't see Brother Yu's class here, so naturally, there were no players. They stood in a circle, leaving Slender Waist Dance and Jian Nan in the circle. Jian Nan was still in the same posture. Slender Waist Dance stood more casually than him. She waved her hand at everyone and said, "Stand further away, don't affect my positioning." Everyone hurriedly dodged into the distance. In the circle, Jian Nan asked calmly, "Can we begin?" "Come on." Just as Slim Waist Dance finished her sentence, she rushed out first. She had never chosen to strike after the enemy had attacked. Moreover, she immediately used her most proficient swift movement and changing direction. Her speed became even more valiant after using swift travel. The two of them were not far apart, so in the blink of an eye, she had already flashed behind Jian Nanyu and stabbed him with her saber. Jian Nan did not move fast, but his reaction was fast. He had already predicted Slender Waist Dance's attack strategy. He did not even turn his head and decisively used Whirlwind Slash. However, Slender Waist Dance ignored him and continued to stab with her dagger. The spectators sighed. Everyone wanted to see experts fight and learn some techniques. However, Slender Waist Dance was a method that no one could learn, not even Gu Fei. This was because no one dared to stand still and take a warrior's Whirlwind Slash head-on like she did. This girl was really confident in her equipment. The sharp blade of Whirlwind Slash hurt, but for Slender Waist Dance, as long as the damage was within a bearable range, it was nothing. In the end, when she stabbed back, the one who lost the most health was Jian Nan. Unfortunately, Slender Waist Dance's Whirlwind Slash was too fast. She could not grasp the timing when Jian Nan's back was facing her, so she could not use backstab. Jian Nan's health dropped a lot when he was hit. If it was someone with poor equipment or low health, they would have been instantly killed. Jian Nan, who was covered in cold sweat, immediately cancelled his Whirlwind Slash and suddenly used Charge. This change was very fast, and the direction was very accurate. It was obvious that he had practiced in this area. The distance was too close, and Slender Waist Dance could not defend in time. She was knocked back by Jian Nan's charge. Slender Waist Dance landed on the ground, but she was not stunned. Swift movement was on cooldown, so she immediately activated stealth. However, she had only disappeared halfway when she saw Jian Nan, who was running over, suddenly lift his leg from the ground. A cloud of white ash instantly sprayed from head to toe. The amount was much more than what she usually threw with her hands. Gu Fei and the other foreigners looked down at the pit that Jian Nan had made. They thought to themselves that this was the famous white lime of Baisher City. Jian Nan made full use of his home advantage, thinking that he had broken Slender Waist Dance's stealth. Who would have thought that Slender Waist Dance's stealth would not be interrupted even after the white lime had been sprinkled? At this moment, Slender Waist Dance had already disappeared with a body of white ash. Of course, Jian Nan did not know that Slender Waist Dance had the stealth skill, which forced her to remain in stealth. Under the stealth state, stealth could not be interrupted, and white lime was useless. Jian Nan, who could not figure out what was going on, did not dare to rush forward. He turned around and ran. A normal thief's movement speed would be greatly reduced when in stealth, and they would not be able to catch up to a level 40 class running at full speed. However, Slender Waist Dance's agility equipment was extremely overpowered. Secondly, she was a thief god among thieves. In terms of sneaking, she was even better than an assassin. In stealth, her movement speed was adjusted, and she was faster than a normal thief or assassin. As such, it was not a problem for her to catch up to a warrior like Jian Nan. Stealth continued to consume mana, so Slender Waist Dance did not waste any time. She tried her best to chase Jian Nan. Jian Nan's goal was clear. He wanted to quickly run to the side of the boulder and lean against it to prevent the two powerful skills of thieves, sap and backstab, that could only be used from behind. Everyone was gathered around the 95-27 rock. Jian Nan quickly ran to the side of the boulder and immediately lowered his body with his back against the boulder. He held the shield in his left hand and used it to protect his body as much as possible, while his right hand stretched out with all his might to swing a one-handed sword. With such a stance, it would be much more difficult for Slender Waist Dance to attack him. Although the sword in her right hand was not as well protected as the shield, Slender Waist Dance's weapon was a dagger. If she wanted to attack Jian Nanyu, she needed to be very close. Jian Nanyu's arm span was longer than Slender Waist Dance's. At this moment he completely extended his arms and waved like this. If Slender Waist Dance wanted to pass through here, it would be difficult for her to avoid being hit by the sword. Gu Fei took a look at the time. He knew that Slender Waist Dance's stealth movement consumed 7% mana per second. In other words, it could only be used for 14 seconds at most. As long as it was within this time limit, Jian Nan would probably miscalculate if he wanted to use his right-hand sword to break Slender Waist Dance's stealth. He could only hope that he would not panic when his sword hit someone, but his eyes could not see. Those who knew about Slender Waist Dance felt that Jian Nan had miscalculated. Those who did not know about Slender Waist Dance felt that Jian Nan's defensive stance was perfect. Who would have thought that at this moment, Jian Nan would do something that surprised everyone? He suddenly stood up and took a step forward. He raised his arms and swept out with Whirlwind Slash. Not bad, someone said in surprise. Gu Fei heard the voice and saw that it was Han family young master. The sun must have risen from the west for this person to praise him. In the arena, Jian Nan had a surprised look on his face after he used Whirlwind Slash. However, he did not stop. Horini and the others did not know what happened, but Gu Fei and the others already knew that Jian Nan had hit Slender Waist Dance. However, he was surprised because Slender Waist Dance was still in stealth when she was attacked. Although stealth would not be broken, the damage she received would not be any different. After taking 2 Whirlwind Slashes head-on, and they were from South Azure Blade, Slim Waist Dancer clearly did not feel good. She hurriedly cancelled stealth and high evasion. Whirlwind Slash was actually a skill that dealt continuous damage. Those who took the Whirlwind Slash would see their health slowly decrease unless they were hit to the end or were directly sent flying. What's going on? Jian Nan can see Slender Waist Dance? Unscathed in Battle asked in surprise. It's a calculation. This guy is good at calculation. He had already estimated how fast Slender Waist Dance would move after she went into stealth. Moving to the side of the boulder and taking precautions were just to numb Slender Waist Dance. By calculating Slender Waist Dance's movement speed and distance, he had roughly estimated when Slender Waist Dance would arrive next to him. He was waiting for this opportunity to land a hit. Han family young master said. Not bad, Unscathed in Battle exclaimed. If it was Sword Demon, he would be dead by now, right? Obviously, other than Slender Waist Dance, no thief could take 2 Whirlwind Slashes and a charge from Jian Nan and not die. If it was me, I wouldn't have taken the first Whirlwind Slash, so I wouldn't have been hit by that charge. Sword Demon calmly analyzed. Sister Slender Waist Dance is too impatient. If only she had taken 1 or 2 steps back. Yutian Shenming said. It can't be helped. Her skill has a time limit. She can only move as fast as she can. Sword Demon shook his head. If it was you, what would you do? Yutian Shenming asked. When Jian Nan is in a defensive position, cancel stealth, go near him in stealth, and wait. Sword Demon said. Just as these guys were discussing tactics, there were more changes happening in the arena. Just as the young master of the Han clan had said, Jian Nanyu had already planned everything out. Moreover, his plan was even more detailed than the young master of the Han clan. This was because Jian Nanyu had long been prepared for Slender Waist Dance. He had always been on guard against Slender Waist Dance's pursuit, so he had carefully studied the process of fighting Slender Waist Dance last time. He had long since calculated the attack, defense, and HP of Thin Waist Dance. He was even more familiar with the most intuitive attribute, speed. With his preparations done, Jian Nan wasn't afraid of Slender Waist Dance in a 1v1. That was the truth. Although the attack did not interrupt his stealth, which was beyond Jian Nanyo's expectations, it did not affect the overall situation. Slender Waist Dance could only use Whirlwind Slash once and couldn't do it again. This time, she had to dodge the Whirlwind Slash. In stealth, her movement speed definitely couldn't escape Whirlwind Slash. So, even if stealth wasn't interrupted, Slender Waist Dance would have to stop it or else she would die. As a result, Slender Waist Dance cancelled her skill and prepared to escape Whirlwind Slash. Jian Nan had already prepared a follow-up attack. Charge, still charge. It didn't matter how many moves there were, as long as they worked. At such a close distance, even if Slender Waist Dance knew that a charge was coming, it would be difficult for her to dodge. The situation was exactly the same as the first time. But this time, Slender Waist Dance didn't have enough HP to withstand another charge. I died again. Slender Waist Dance was extremely depressed. Just as Jian Nan's sword was about to stab her, her vision suddenly blurred and another figure appeared in front of her. The dark stream sword was placed horizontally in front of her, blocking the tip of Jian Nan's charge. Ding! There was a shattering sound. How could Gu Fei block the warrior's charge with his measly strength? He was sent flying along with Slender Waist Dance. However, at this moment, Gu Fei did something that only he could do. As he was knocked off balance and fell backwards at high speed, Gu Fei's sword quickly slashed back. When the tip of the sword swept past the person, sparks flew out. Jian Nan Yu's expression of shock had not even finished showing when he was already gone. The attacker was gone, but the two people who were attacked were still flying backward. The one who was attacked was Gu Fei. He wouldn't be killed by a charge. Slender Waist Dance was hit by Gu Fei when he was sent flying. However, Jian Nan's charge didn't have the hit a bull from a distance effect. So, although she was sent flying, she didn't receive any damage. She was fine. In the end, all that was left was a circle of shocked expressions. No one expected Gu Fei to jump out and make a move at this time. If Gu Fei wanted to save Slim Waist Dance, he would have saved her. However, Gu Fei had killed South Azure Sword with a backhand strike. Although it was a spectacular strike, even Sword Ghoul and the others felt that Gu Fei had gone overboard. This brat, he really didn't go easy on me. Gu Fei got up and patted the dust off. Fuck! He's too shameless, he even brought help. Glue and the others endured and endured, but in the end, they couldn't take it anymore. I didn't say he couldn't. Why didn't you guys come and help? Gu Fei asked. The 6 of them were depressed. Isn't this a fair competition? Slender Waist Dance didn't appreciate it either. Who asked you to help me? Then what should we do? We're so close. It wouldn't be right to watch you get killed by him. Gu Fei said. But there's no need to kill him. Slender Waist Dance said. It's convenient. Don't you just want to kill him for revenge? I'll help you kill him. How about it? Do you want to continue chasing him? Gu Fei said. Sigh, forget it. Slender Waist Dance sighed. At this time, she was too embarrassed to continue attacking Jian Nan. Gu Fei nodded. He pulled out his friends list and sent a message to Jian Nan. It's fine now. Chapter 608. You're too fast. Azure Blade hadn't even recovered from his shock at the revival point. Although it was planned, the speed of Gu Fei's slash was beyond his imagination. Especially under those circumstances, it was still able to hit him. Azure Blade wasn't that kind. He wanted to use the Windchaser emblem to teleport the moment Gu Fei attacked. He might be able to fool Gu Fei. After all, it was impossible to not feel the pain of losing 40 levels. No matter how indifferent it was still the result of his hard work. In the end, Gu Fei's attack was too fast, especially when he could teleport. By the time he appeared, Azure Blade was already there. Azure Blade didn't even have time to react before he died. Die a worthy death, die a worthy death, Gu Fei comforted. Can I come back? Azure Blade sighed and asked. Come back. She didn't make things difficult for my other brothers, right? Azure Blade asked. She doesn't know them at all. Gu Fei said. Azure Blade relaxed. He left the revival point and walked towards 9,527 stones in the wilderness. Although Slender Waist Dance said that she had let it go, she still wasn't satisfied. However, losing to Azure Blade twice in a row wasn't completely a problem of luck. Azure Blade's equipment wasn't at the level of a normal player. In addition, he was a robber, so his PvP experience and skills were very good. Although Slender Waist Dance's PvP skills weren't bad, the problem was that as a pay-to-win warrior, her equipment always suppressed other players. Normally, she was used to chopping vegetables. Now that she wanted to chop an expert like Azure Blade, The outcome was naturally tragic. At this moment, Slender Waist Dance's face was filled with melancholy. She had no intention of leaving after squatting at 9,527 stones. Do you want to play with us? Gu Fei understood that this girl was still depressed, so he came over to invite her to relax. Play to earn money? Slender Waist Dance asked. She wasn't interested in earning money. Gu Fei laughed dryly. I have nothing to do anyway. What are you guys doing? Slender Waist Dance perked up. Although she couldn't be bothered to participate, she wanted to see what these guys were up to. The most efficient way to level up. Gu Fei waved his hand and pointed at the large group of players in front of Rock 9527, who were focused on learning how Brother Yu fought monsters on the giant rock. How is it efficient? Slim Waist Dance also looked at Brother Yu, who was on top of the boulder. Ugh, for a normal person, your equipment is too much, Gu Fei said. The most efficient way to level up was to increase the efficiency of a player killing a single monster through combat techniques. However, for a player like Thin Waist Dancer, whose equipment was already too overpowered, she could kill a monster in 1 or 2 hits. How could she possibly be more efficient? Therefore, this efficient leveling method was not efficient at all for her. How boring! Thin Waist Dance watched for a while before losing interest. For you, a level 40 monster is too low. What level do you usually kill? Gu Fei asked. Level 50. Slender Waist Dance said. Have you ever killed a level 61? Gu Fei asked. I have, but it's not as fast as killing 50. Slender Waist Dance said. Hee hee. Gu Fei laughed. Slender Waist Dance's eyes suddenly lit up. You have a way to increase the efficiency of killing level 60 monsters, right? Of course. Gu Fei said. Teach me. Slender Waist Dance jumped up. We're still busy right now. I'll teach you when I have time, Gu Fei replied. Call me when you have time. Slender Waist Dance's gloominess was swept away. The ones who were gloomy were the experts who had heard the conversation between Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance. Don't go too far with using level 60 monsters to level up. Everyone protested. If you want to learn, you can come. Gu Fei smiled. Was there anyone who didn't want to learn? Everyone enthusiastically signed up. In the end, Gu Fei added, First, change your stats to full agility. Our current agility is probably equivalent to your full agility, right? Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming asked. Unscathed in battle had tears streaming down his face. He knew that he definitely didn't have a chance. But, Yutian, I don't know how to use bow and arrow. If you change your weapon, your damage won't be able to keep up and it won't be very efficient. Gu Fei said, although archers could also use weapons like swords and daggers, because of the weapon's coefficient requirement and the fact that archers had proficiency skill, bow proficiency, even if they were equipped with these weapons, their normal damage wouldn't be on the same level as warriors and thieves. In Gu Fei's current teaching activities, apart from the clerics who had extremely limited damage, the most tragic were the archers. After changing to normal weapons, their damage was much lower than the other classes, so their efficiency was naturally very pitiful. Yutian Shenming cried bitterly. When the last group of people came down, only Sword Demon could meet the requirements. Glue and the others weren't very interested in this matter. Yutian Shenming went over to ask. These guys weren't thinking about leveling at all. They just wanted to see how big the profits from this deal were. Call me when you're free. Slender Waist Dance had already recovered. After repeatedly reminding Gu Fei, he didn't want to waste any more time. Thus, everyone quietly waited for Southern Azure Sword to arrive before they officially started negotiating about the deal. The cooperation was a foregone conclusion. Next was the problem of how to distribute the profits. The 6 members of the child elite group were easy to negotiate among themselves. One of the main reasons was that they didn't really care about money. Although it was inevitable that they would be mean to each other, they were just joking around for fun and didn't really care about it. Usually, you would take 800 yuan, I would take 300 yuan, and everyone would laugh and scold each other. In fact, they wouldn't take it to heart. However, they naturally couldn't do that with Southern Azure Sword and the others. People played games for money, and they naturally couldn't be so careless in this aspect that was the most important. Therefore, after Southern Azure Sword arrived, he didn't mention anything about Slender Waist Dance at all, and went straight to the topic of cooperation. Thus, right in front of 9,527 stones, Brother Yu continued to teach, while 100-era Jingren was in charge of collecting fees from the new players. Behind the 9,527 stones, a group of fellows gathered together and secretly discussed how to distribute the money. Han family young master first reported the income of Brother Yu and 100-era Jingren from last night's 2 matches, as well as some income from today's messy activities. The amount of gold coins that exceeded 6 digits made Southern Azure Sword and the others extremely excited. Both sides had a very pleasant discussion. Southern Azure Sword and the others weren't greedy, and Gu Fei and the others weren't stingy either. Therefore, one side didn't mind taking less, and the other side didn't mind giving more. How could this kind of cooperation not be easy? However, after all, it was everyone's first time doing this kind of business. There were many details that couldn't be thought of at the moment. In the end, they decided to explore as they go, and seek development while exploring. For the first time, Southern Azure Sword and the others would be under Gu Fei's banner, and they would be the main force of the teaching team. The other matters would be temporarily handled by others, and if there were any major problems, they would discuss and solve it together. After the discussion, the teaching of 9,527 stones would be handed over to Brother Yu for the time being. Gu Fei and 100-era Jingren led Southern Azure Sword and the others to the White Mill for the next stop of preparation. Since the 7 of them were going to be in charge of teaching, they naturally followed Gu Fei and 100-era Jingren to learn what they needed to learn. In order not to make the mistake of inadvertently attracting the attention of the onlookers in the wilderness camp, they purposely found a corner with no one around, and Qianli practically kidnapped the mobs to learn from them. After the teaching, Gu Fei and 100-era Jingren had nothing to do, but Southern Azure Sword and the others still had to study hard. However, these guys' levels weren't mainstream, and they were still top-tier experts. They were much more receptive than ordinary players. Moreover, this time, they had a full range of classes, and the teaching was more comprehensive. For example, Gu Fei taught Flaming Jacket the melee fighting style of a mage step by step. After all, a mage couldn't use a sword to attack a level 40 monster, and that would be ineffective. Dual Flame Flash and Enchantment were the main damage output of a mage in a melee fight. Flaming Jacket was a little nervous while learning from Gu Fei. Every time Gu Fei attacked, Flaming Jacket would want to shrink back. He couldn't get used to the fact that Gu Fei's sword wasn't aimed at him even though he was right next to Gu Fei. Other than that, Glue, Inagami and Forest Dents, their leveling efficiency was quite low. However, they were only in charge of teaching, and the key was to demonstrate the fighting style to the players who were learning. Their own efficiency varied from person to person. In theory, the better the equipment, the more efficient the leveling efficiency. However, once the equipment reached a certain level, the leveling efficiency would become useless. Therefore, in essence, leveling efficiency was actually the best friend of the average middle-class player. After Gu Fei and 100-era Jingren finished their tutoring, they went offline on time, leaving the busy work to the players who only focused on the game. At this time, the situation in the wilderness camp was rapidly worsening, just as everyone expected. More and more players arrived, and the leveling area was finally filled to the brim. Batch after batch of graduates set foot in the leveling area, but they couldn't find any monsters to kill. They had spent their money, but there were no monsters to kill. The beautiful dream of quickly accumulating EXP and leveling up was right in front of them, but they couldn't be realized. Countless players were depressed. Under such circumstances, it wouldn't be a game if kill stealing didn't happen. The chaotic situation continued to escalate, and the flames of war continued to spread. The players with brains had already left this troublesome place as soon as possible. Kill stealing? What was the point of kill stealing in such a situation? You could steal a monster in 1 minute, but the next minute, you would be stolen like a monster. There was no place for a single player in such a chaotic place. the major guilds of White Stone City finally made their appearance. It wasn't that the major guilds of White Stone City were slow to react. Firstly, the promotion of the leveling efficiency method was sudden. Secondly, the Wilderness Camp was a famous leveling area for solo players. The major guilds usually organized group leveling, so they had nothing to do with such a place. Perhaps there were also players who were passionate about solo leveling, but these people were naturally reclusive and unsociable. Or perhaps they wanted to train hard and amaze the world with a single brilliant feat when they discovered such a good thing. Not a single person reported it to the guild. As a result, during this period of time, many small teams gathered in the Wilderness Camp. However, these major guilds of White Stone City were slow to notice. The three largest guilds of White Stone City clearly came prepared. After entering the Wilderness Camp, there wasn't the slightest dispute. They very simply and directly divided the leveling area into 3 equal portions. At this time, the players who were muddle-headed and fighting for kills in the leveling area saw that the major guilds had intervened. They naturally understood that they had no chance of singing by themselves. But who was willing to give up so easily? There were those who wanted to try their luck and continue mingling in there. There were also those who immediately turned around and called for help. The 3 major guilds also reacted very quickly. They immediately adjusted their strategy and quickly spat out half of the leveling area that they had already divided. They were also very worried. After all, this wasn't just a piece of equipment, but a leveling area with double and triple times the normal leveling area. This was something that everyone needed. The 3 major guilds taking over the entire area was equivalent to going against all the players of White Stone City. Although the 3 major guilds were powerful, they didn't dare to cover the sky with one hand. This strategy was extremely effective. When the players who came saw that half of the Wilderness Camp was occupied by the 3 major guilds and the other half was a wild field for cats and dogs, the smart ones knew which side to contend with. As a result, a strange scene once again appeared in the Wilderness Camp. Half of the leveling area was divided into 3 portions, all of which were leveling in harmony and order. The other half was divided into countless portions and was constantly being redivided. PvP occurred everywhere. White light formed a river. Flames, whirlwinds, sap, all of these filled every inch of this half. All of this happened in this short night. The fellows of the Child Elite group had long since tactfully left the Wilderness Camp. After the guild entered the Wilderness Camp, the teaching business basically didn't have the space to exist. As long as there was one person within the guild who knew how, even if they wanted to do business, they could still do it internally. There was no need to invite outsiders. As for the other players who came, they also gathered together to fight over the leveling area. Even if there were some who didn't know how to level, they naturally had friends to teach them. The pure and innocent era of coming alone to learn the efficient leveling method was gone in a mere 2 days. This situation actually gave an early warning to the Han family young master and the others. The guild was really a big enemy for them to develop this business. There were over 1,000 people in a level 6 guild. As long as they sent a representative to learn, the entire guild could spread the news. Then, with a poke at the leveling area, the majority of the area would be occupied by them. You must register in advance. After considering this point, the Han family young master said even more resolutely, "Starting from tomorrow, we will announce that we will accept the efficient leveling method registration for the White Mill leveling area. Which one of you inspected that area today?" Yutian Shenming raised his hand. "That place is a bit smaller than the Wilderness Camp, but I think it shouldn't be a problem for it to accommodate 5,000 players. Yutian, you've overlooked a problem. The saturation of 5,000 players is for the current normal leveling. But when the players all master the efficient leveling method, the current situation looks like the average efficiency will double. In other words, the time it takes to kill one monster can now be used to kill 2 monsters. In other words, if a player needs to continuously kill monsters to level and needs 3 monsters to respawn, then after mastering the efficient leveling method, they will need 6 monsters. In this case, when the leveling area is saturated, the number of players needs to be calculated downwards. The white mill should be calculated at 3,000. Brother Yu said. Yu Tian Shenming's expression was pained. Brother Yu, next time you can just say that I calculated wrongly. It should be 3,000. You don't need to tell me the reason. What's the situation at the wilderness camp? Han family young master asked Brother Yu. White Stone City's largest guilds, Winter, White Wind and Tempest, occupy half of the area. These 3 guilds are all level 6 guilds and have a total of 3,150 players. But it's impossible for all of them to be online. I've roughly calculated that there should be around 2,500 players. Brother Yu said, 2,500 players? I'm afraid that occupying half of the leveling area isn't enough? Han family young master asked. Of course it's not enough to train, but the big guilds usually organize group training. Right now, they've just received the news that they're stationed in the wilderness camp. They're still in the early stages and the leveling method hasn't been popularized, so they haven't started leveling yet. Brother Yu explained and continued, as for the other half, it's lively. Right now, it's still in the chaotic killing situation of the evening. There are only a few who can safely guard a leveling area, and it's even more impossible for a single person to survive. But looking at the current situation, it's very likely that there will be second-rate guilds joining forces to further divide up the leveling area. Sure enough, at the end of the day, it's still the team that has the advantage. Han family young master nodded. Maybe we can take the initiative to contact the guild and directly sell them our leveling method. Brother Yu said, it's not time yet. Han family young master waved his hand. Right now, even if you sell it to them, they won't realize the benefits. They'll only think that they only need to spend 99 gold to buy it and share it. There's no need to fork out such a large amount of money. So, we'll still use our original plan, but this time, we must move quickly. I think this time, everyone should sacrifice a bit of time. Everyone will be in charge of teaching. Jian Nan Yu and the other 6 plus us, 13 people. In the shortest amount of time, we'll train a whole leveling area in one go. Everyone nodded. Also, announce the establishment of the studio in the White Mill recruitment post. Let everyone know that this job will be hosted by our studio. Han family young master said. We haven't discussed the name of the studio yet. Brother Yu said. Let's call it Qianli's Drunk Studio. We'll use Qianli's name. Do you guys have any objections? Han family young master asked. We don't. Everyone shook their heads. The question is whether he has it or not. Have you asked him? I've asked. Han family young master said. You really asked? Brother Yu's face was full of doubt. Posting the post was his job. If this got out, then Gu Fei would come looking for trouble. It doesn't matter if I asked or not. He won't go on the forums anyways. Han family young master said. Brother Yu was depressed. This guy really didn't ask. To be cautious, Brother Yu decided to confirm with Gu Fei before posting. Also, let the registered players send the money directly to Qianli's mailbox. Do you guys have any questions? Han family young master said. Money was always a sensitive issue. But everyone had seen Gu Fei's character. They trusted him enough. Han family young master's suggestion was also because of this. Everyone nodded. Brother Yu asked again, I say, you haven't discussed this with Qianli, right? What's there to discuss? How big is it to receive money? If he isn't willing, then let me do it. Han family young master said. Fuck, it's Qianli then. Brother Yu didn't dare to question anymore. If Han family young master was responsible for this, Brother Yu really doubted that he would get wine instead of gold coins. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.